All right, all right. Looks like we're live. I hope everybody's doing well. Derek Lambert, your host. MythVision Podcast is the game, and we're going to do an Ask Me Anything live chat. So, for those of you who are in the chat, welcome. I am alive. I'm going to let everybody start to trickle in. So, let's give a little intro. And the intro here is going to be important because we're going to go over that. We're going to go over that. We've got a debate coming up, and I wanted to do a small little heads up for those who enjoy my intros. So let's go with the apocalypse. Ladies and gentlemen, we are MythVision. Welcome back. Yes, everybody in the chat. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to start chipping away at some of these questions, and then we're going to get into something as we have more people in the live. So, first things first, can you host Karen Armstrong? Star Capture. Look, you have all sorts of myth money now you can go spend. Let's just say you were the first here, so 10,000 myth money. I need to look into Karen Armstrong, and if you hear a slight echo, it's because my office that I'm in, my new house, is not packed yet. Like it hasn't been unpacked, if you will. So there's still echo in the background. And it is going to obviously mitigate that sound a little as I fill in the office. But we are in our new location, and I'm working on trying to unpack. For the past 2 days, I don't think I've worked out that hard in a long time, getting all the furniture for my family, my kids, putting their beds together, you name it. But yes, we are on the West Coast. I moved from North Carolina. We are in Washington State now, in the Tri-Cities, Southeast Washington. Beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I was actually born here. And so I moved here because I have family, my sisters, nieces, nephews, and of course, my brother, my mother, my father, my kids' grandparents. And they'll have that opportunity to be, around family, having loved ones. We are a social creature, and I don't want my kids being raised without being close to family as much as possible. So the move was very intense, and it's still a headache. My wife was like, honey, go down there, go relax for a minute. You've been busting your hump for the past week. In fact, I got to give a special shout out to my boy, Neil. He's probably not in the chat, but he helped me out. So, Gnostic Informant, let me tell you something. I met him about a year ago, maybe, and he had like 300 subscribers. Like he had, just a couple hundred. And I saw something in him. You might call the Gnosis, right? Gnostic tendencies here. I saw he had what it took to do what we're doing here at MythVision. And he had such a passion and excitement about it. I was like, man, you really do have the kind of energy and the kind of excitement that it takes to run a podcast. Why don't you really put your eggs in this and try? Now, he had to go get a job. He was working at Goodyear, building tires. He would video call me when he wasn't supposed to go, look at this tire I'm building, D. And I'm like, bro, keep hustling, man. I don't know how he must have killed the caffeine, but he was working his butt off doing construction. And then he started doing the YouTube, and he went from 400 subscribers to like 24,400 subscribers. Thanks to you who watch MythVision, because I guarantee you all those community posts that I've posted, all those shares and collabs and efforts and stuff, and him editing stuff for me has helped him get to where he is today. And so Neil is able to do this, I think, full time now. But it's really made me feel really good also on being someone who helps Neil, right? Because Neil's helped me. And I said, Neil, can you help me out and do some live streams while I'm gone, man? I really need someone to keep this channel going while I'm gone. I could have posted some of the pre-records, but your super chats are what keep me being able to do this. So Neil's like, no problem, bro. I got you. He doesn't even like hesitate. And so I want, please, people to go show Neil Gnostic Informant. You may not like all his episodes. Shoot, you watch me, you probably don't care for all the episodes I do, and that's totally fine. But I want to give a shout out to him because he didn't ask for anything in return. He just kicks butt, takes names, edits. He's trying to grow his stuff like I am. And so without you, Neil, I don't know if you're watching this or if you will watch this, bro. I mean this. I wouldn't have that like really close friendship kind of collaborative competition even, right? We help each other, but there's like this effort to do better than what we did before. And it's like, you're trying to catch up to me and I'm trying to like make sure I stay ahead. Keep up the good work, brother. Like, I'm really proud of you for what you've done and the things you've done. And I want to say a special thank you to you for all of that. Seriously. On another note, MythVision's Patron members, those who've stuck it out, like, I seriously thank you. You have early access to everything, but let me just give you a teaser for those who are Patron supporters of what we do. I have videos with John Dominic Crossan that I've never edited yet, 5 or 6 of those, high quality 4K. I've got videos with James Tabor that I haven't even edited yet. By the way, on Monday, I'm doing a live stream on him, with him, and we're going to be discussing why harmonizing the Gospels destroys them. And he's going to show some pericope we're going to go through on how the Gospels evolve and change and are not alike. And those apologists who want to act like there's a single message just from different perspectives really are destroying the meaning of each author. So stay tuned for that. Please consider joining, of course. Every month there's a drop-off, like 20 or 30 people who drop off. This keeps us alive. And I do plan on doing live streams with my Patron members. I am also planning, if you want to join the membership program for YouTube, of doing specifically members-only live streams. So if you're a member, you'll be able to chat. If you're not, there'll be no comments by you and stuff like that. I plan on doing something like that because the least I could do, other than giving like early access to stuff, is giving those who help support us, access to being able to have that conversation and be in the chat. So thank you. Thank you for that. All right. On Monday, like I said, I've got Gospel Injustice with Dr. James Tabor. Tuesday, the human origins of religion, everything from Yahwism, the Hebrew Bible, Septuagint, Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm going to be having an academic on, and it is Dr. Matthew Munger, and he is going to be showing us how nature became divine. When you don't understand why the volcano erupts, when you don't understand earthquakes or lightning bolts, you think there's a God behind the cloud ready to strike you down. Therefore, Zeus. Therefore, Yahweh, who is a storm deity, by the way, who fights the dragon, the sea, Leviathan, okay? And of course, the earlier mythology is Tiamat and Marduk, and then there's earlier mythologies, but he destroys and creates the world from the carcass of Tiamat. And I love this stuff because the ancients were trying to anthropomorphize nature because they thought they had agency. They're looking at the world around them. They're saying, hold on, these are also conscious agents, and therefore, and they're more powerful than us. Nature's a son of a gun. Any of those survival shows, I love watching those, by the way. You ever watch those survival shows and they're like, man, never fight Mother Nature. Try to adapt to her, because she will kick your ass. Yes, that is true. Now you can understand why someone who didn't know the science would say Mother Nature was really a real being or had actual attributes, or different deities controlled different powers of nature. This is what we're going to get into. Matthew Munger. Also, there's this, and before I get to your super chats and questions and hanging out with you in the chat, who wrote the Gospels? I have recently come across that academic in the past 4 or 5 months, Robin Faith Walsh. It might have been 6 months. Robin Faith Walsh. And she is fantastic. She's going to be debating with my good friend, Jonathan Sheffield. Jonathan Sheffield, he's like my best friend. And he's a Christian apologist. Yes, I said it. He's a Christian apologist. He's not like all the other ones. let me tell you, Jonathan is really cool. I mean, I met him in person multiple times. We've talked, we've hung out for hours. Okay. Jonathan is thankful that I've given him these chances to academically have these discussions with others who have PhDs and are really high up in the field. He would take a shirt off of his back if I was cold. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. And Jonathan offered to help MythVision out. You guys have seen my intros. I've had various intros with cartoons made. They're all made by John. Well, not every single one of them, but the really good ones are all made by him. He's like an artist and he knows how to create these. Jonathan said, D, I need you to offer this to the audience. I want to give back to you for the things you do. And he said, I want to create up to 5 30-second animated intro cartoons. So if you're like a content creator, this is an option for you. If you're not, you just want a custom cartoon made for you, 30 seconds. I want to offer for 5 people who donate $250, they get a cartoon made. Now, we only are going to have 4 slots if you just want to pay the $250. No matter what, I don't have that 5th slot. We don't want to sell that one. We want to do a what do you call that? Where like people put their names in the hat and they put a super chat out there. We'll put their name in a hat depending on the amount of the super chat. I'll come up with the numbers for that. And then at the end, we're going to do a random draw. I'll have my wife pick the names out of the hat. She'll put the names down for the people who super chat. We'll have a big old hat. She'll reach in and someone will win a free, or maybe not free, but maybe they can't afford $250, right? You get the opportunity to win a custom cartoon intro. And for those of you who don't know, let me tease you with a few of those intros to show you how much fun Jonathan has had in making these. Let's go back to the old school intro. Here we go. Awesome. So that was the first one he made. My jaw dropped. I was like, dude, this is so good. Oh man, we got to do this again. And then he did the horseman one, which we did here. You remember? Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing because I did this at the beginning. You've seen how cool the intro is. There is one that I do want to share with you, and I haven't got the music right because it's a copyrighted sound, and I want something exactly like it as much as possible without it being taken from someone else's music. So I haven't done it. But here is the intro, and I had him make it with my father. To have my father in the image, like my dad's actually teaching me or telling me. And here it is.
Do you want to know what it is? After this, there's no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I'm going to have to redo that. Now, at this point, I want to have the music going. And there is no music right now, which is why I haven't been using this intro, but it's really the blue pill, red pill thing. So I end up taking the pill and I wake up, of course, and the whole point is me escaping religion, escaping this, I guess you'd say, fictitious world that I lived in that gave me this comfort and whatnot, and realizing like, hold on, everybody's kind of trapped in these towers like the real Matrix, right? That they're using them as batteries, so to speak, to keep them alive. And if you look closely, there's crosses, there's like symbols of Islam and Judaism and all of these different religions in those towers, and humans are what keep them alive, keep these religions alive. And so I want to get the right music for this intro. But these are intros that Jonathan makes. And so Jonathan said, dude, I'm ready to start making intro, cartoons for anybody who is interested in wanting to help you at MythVision. So you can email me. I put my email out there because I want to make sure that people aren't just throwing money and then, oh, snap, we went beyond our limit of what we're supposed to do. Email me, and then I will definitely set you up. We'll connect you to Jonathan on how you want a custom cartoon intro to be made, and he'll start on it. So he is looking out because I'm looking out and trying to get these debates with him and other academics. And he's like, look, man, let's have some fun. I'll create a cartoon intro for whoever's interested in helping support for $250. They can buy the intro and it helps you. All funds will go to MythVision. And on the fifth one, we'll do a raffle. And when we go to do the debate that day with Robin Faith Walsh and him, we'll have anyone who super chats. I don't know if it's $5, $10, whatever. We'll put a name in the hat. And depending on how much you put in, your name will be put in the hat more. And then at the end, we'll do the raffle drawing. I'll have my wife randomly, pull a name out. Boom. Whoever that is, obviously I'll call your name out. You'll email me. We'll get you a custom cartoon intro made. Making it fun. Why not? Why not have a little fun? Because some people can't afford. I get it. Totally get it. But Jonathan's like, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work to make these intros. So the least I could do is try to make you some money and help MythVision. All right. That was a long intro, but it was fun. It's me catching back up with you, letting you know what's going on. I have all sorts of academics that I have on the list. I'm also trying to talk to a scholar on the Lost Tribes of Israel. For those who saw the recent episode on Religion for Breakfast with Dr. Andrew Henry, I emailed him and he's like, that's not my expertise. The scholar that I was pulling the information from is this guy, which I had already emailed. We're in connection. And of course, there's going to be an episode on the myth of the Lost Tribes of Israel. All right. Now to the chat. Robert Heron, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Bling Cicero, Melody Joy, good to see you here. Both members of the YouTube channel. Thank you, Vesna. Dan Jacobs in the house. Mark Andrew, what is up? Bat Bleep, Crazy Motorcycles. Joel Pearson, don't forget to hit the like button to trigger Derek Shaka. Dude, you were supposed to you really, really weren't supposed to tell people about that shot collar. That was between us, bro. Joel, we got to talk about this later, man. Sandals, we are MythVision. Inquisitive Mind, thank you, Ghost of MythVision. Appreciate the compliment. Dude, that intro is always fire lit. Darth says, thank you. Mojo says, MythVision podcasts are the things we do immoral. The times I left Islam, I coped my doubt by looking to Christianity and Islam as bad. But now that I am more confident, I project Islam and Christianity. Not sure I quite understand that statement. We need to hear the entire genealogy of MythVision back to Adam. Dan, thanks, man. Appreciate you in the chat. We're going to do a follow-up episode as well. And what I want to dive into, Dan, is I want to get into the Talmud and the Mishnah. I want to talk about some of the interesting things that rabbis had to say over time, but also some of the crazy, dated stuff, like stuff that we know is backwards now, but at the time to them seemed normal. But also I want to talk about, and maybe Dan, I don't know if you have like a way of putting this together. By the way, Dan's a patron of mine as well. Thank you for that. But Dan, I want to talk about how later rabbis try to change ugly things that they found in the law or in the Hebrew Bible. I've heard stuff like, where it says to marry your rapist, really ugly crap that we know is ridiculous. Even the rabbis saw that and were like, let's find a way to twist this to get away from how bad that looks in the Hebrew Bible. So I don't know if you got a list of those. I like the juicy stuff. Let's talk about that sometime. Yeshua the King, Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate those. Seeing Islam is a political and religious system and the fastest growing, do you think Islam is a threat to society? Also, have you been able to check Lloyd DeJong? No, I haven't been able to check Lloyd DeJong. As far as, well, I think, yeah, I definitely think that religion is obviously a problem. And the things that I've seen, I'm not going to beat around the bush or try to sugarcoat it. I absolutely think that many of these religions are a problem. However, that's why I think I'm taking a different path than a lot of these critics and skeptics who want to annihilate all of the religions altogether. I just don't see it being feasible. I'd love for it to be the case that humans realized we had what it took all along, and it didn't take these particular worldviews in order to unite us. Maybe I'm in like a utopia in my mind and wishful thinking, but I would love to get progressive people in these religions to somehow push and become more popular. Who wouldn't want that? I'm afraid a lot of the textual traditions that are built in the foundation of these religions are just backwards. And until the adherents of those religions recognize they're backwards and are willing to say, sorry, we live in new times in a new day, and they just didn't know better, which is the problem. They think this is the message for all mankind at all times. Then it's always going to be one of those fundamental problems with those who follow these religions. I think that most Muslims, most Christians, most Jews, most people are better than their religions. I think they're more moral than their religions. That's my opinion. And I think that we learn a lot from these. There are certainly good things that we can learn from all of these religions, but there's also certainly horrible things as well. So as far as a threat to society, I don't know if it's the fastest growing. I hear that, but there's others who are saying we're not so sure. And if it is, it's through population where people are just birthing children and the children are Muslims. And I don't think that the converts are being absolutely convinced because of apologetics or something like that. I think there's pressure involved. When you have a message that kind of like the recent stuff I've been doing with William Lane Craig, the message is, let's look at Pascal's wager. Do you want to risk it? Islam has this same kind of approach that Christianity does, where you will burn in hell forever, or there's the potential, which is the thing. Like all the apologists and people online that I talk to, they go, well, Derek, you may not have heard Islam correctly, so you probably, who knows if you'll go to hell or not. You might have a chance. I think that's a soft way of trying to make it not ugly. I think that typically the religion is definitely saying, yeah, you're going to go to hell. If you don't believe in this, the God of Israel, the God of the Christians, the God of Islam specifically. And I say of Israel because there are certain Jewish sects that were in history, late Second Temple Judaism, that I think did hold to these kind of post-mortem ideas. I think this came out of Persia probably. The idea of going to Sheol and that's it and you die, that's a Hebrew Bible concept, but it's later Second Temple Judaism that starts to incorporate that aftermath, when you die, then judgment, things like that. So all of the Abrahamic faiths do this. And there's like manipulation involved. I honestly think psychological manipulation that is involved in that. Melody, thank you for plugging my friend Neil's YouTube channel. Somebody go harass him in the private chat on Facebook. If you're a friend of his, go tell him, get your booty over here, bruh. Get your booty over here. Grays 174, thank you for the super chat. Do you ever have conservative Orthodox Christians on? And if not, does that interest you just to have more perspectives? I definitely wouldn't mind having an Orthodox Christian or conservative Orthodox Christian on. I would prefer it if there's some pushback or conversation where it's not just here, spill your beans. It's like, having a conservative scholar come on, maybe to inquire about how they would answer certain things. But it's not like my interest to have them on to just like push their particular religious view. I'm fairly confident I'll run across some academics that are Christians, Orthodox in some way. Maybe they're conservative a little. But if they're accurate on their historical approach, or they're conveying good information pertaining to the topic at hand, then yeah. if the question is, I want Orthodox Christians to come on and proselytize to my audience and just listen to them tell us how the gospel's true and how the Christian message is true, and that's the whole episode, no, I have no interest in that. Just like I have no interest in having a Christian apologist come on to just like have an open field of just proselytizing and that's it. But I wouldn't mind hearing their perspective if it's engaging with others on that area. That makes sense. So someone who might be critical, who's not as conservative, having an approach. I mean, let's be honest. I am biased. My channel is more on the critical side of things. I'm interested in having people look at the way these religions and texts have been viewed in a different way. My whole life, I believed them inerrant, infallible, true to the core. The Orthodox Church doesn't take that approach when it comes to the text of the Bible, but they have this kind of infallibility through the tradition of the church itself, and they have, people in authority who help you convey what is true and what isn't true. So there's kind of a combination of things going on here, and I would love to have that with someone who's aware of their position, but has a critical analysis of it. That would be my opinion. I hope that makes sense, because if I wanted to, I could go get like a Catholic apologist or an Orthodox apologist, and they would convey, and you'd be like, okay, a little bit different than what we hear on fundamentalists in the way that they're approaching these things. They might allegorize things more or allow things to not be as literal, but they still have, it's true, and everything about it's true. It just doesn't mean exactly what you thought it meant. And I'm like, okay, well, where's the fun in that? Grays, you're back again. Thank you for the super chat. Do you think Galatians 1:8 is enough to falsify Islam and Mormonism full stop? Do you know a way around it? Let me pull up this Galatians 1:8 so that everybody's on board with this real quick. All right. I'm going to go with the NIV because it's the devil's Bible. And if you're not King James onlyist, you're going to hell. Okay. That's why. Let me move this, remove, share screen so we can get into the pericope together. Okay. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let them be under God's curse, or let them be anathema, cursed. Yeah, one could argue that. I mean, this is what the pseudo-Clementine literature, if you will, 4th century literature between Peter and Paul. There's this argument Peter's saying in this literature, like, dude, I learned directly from Jesus when he was here on earth. And he's like, we don't know what this angel of light that came to you that taught you these things. We learned directly from Jesus, and we don't know. It could have been a demon clothed or Satan clothed as an angel of light teaching you your gospel. But in this case, I imagine one of the Mormons, for example, because the angel appears, or an son and the father and an angel Moroni and others appear to Joseph Smith. The angel from heaven should preach any other gospel than the one we preach. So they'll say, well, we're preaching the accurate gospel. And so they'll probably just say, yeah, we agree with this. This doesn't contradict us, because the gospel that Joseph Smith was taught was the same one Paul was taught. But they're saying if any other gospel, I imagine an apologist would say. But yeah, you could use this against them. And then you said, falsify Islam. Yeah, you could use the same thing. But see, Muslims don't accept Paul. From what I understand, most of the Muslims think Paul was wrong. And I could be wrong. I think most of them think Paul was not accurate in his information. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're Muslim in the chat and you say, no, we accept Paul. Paul's definitely the word of God, or he has things correctly. Let me know. Tell me how wrong I am in the chat. But seems like Paul had things wrong. Paul talks about Jesus was actually crucified. He believes he was crucified. The gospel is to believe he was crucified and rose from the dead. From what I understand, that is definitely contrary to the message most Muslims, I say most, believe. Anyway, back to me again, my ugly mug. Thank you, Grace, for the super chat. Dragons in Genesis, what is up? Welcome, Sages and Pages. KCA, Baron, what is up? Cheryl, thank you for joining the Patreon the other day. I really appreciate that. And adding me to your Facebook group. Paul Hammer, thank you for the super chat. Does the Apostle Paul ever explicitly say that his experience of the risen Jesus was different from the experience of the other apostles or the 12 as Acts does? No, I don't think so. That's an interesting point. I don't think so. I think that the First Corinthians Creed is pretty clear. The only difference that is described is like there's the group of the 500 who Jesus appears to all at once. And then it kind of just says like he's appeared to the 12 and Cephas and this and that. So it sounds like appearing here are visions to me. And they all seem to be having visionary experiences in some sense of Jesus. That's the way I understand Paul in 1 Corinthians 15. I think the reason people argue that it's beyond that or the other apostles had more than that is because of the gospel accounts. So they're stuck on Luke and John, where it's explicit that like he's in his flesh and he's in his, like he has bone and he's eating fish and he's physical, you know. That's what I think, because when you're a harmonizer and you think the whole New Testament is like telling you pretty much one story and it all narrates a single message with different perspectives, but they're all looking at the same thing. They all mean the same thing pretty much. Then technically you are going to harmonize 1 Corinthians 15 to Luke and John. And if you force it hard enough, it'll fit. But I just don't go beyond what 1 Corinthians 15 says and then tack on John and Luke and say, well, it doesn't contradict. But there are other academics who say, yes, it does. 1 Corinthians 15 says, flesh and blood does not inherit the kingdom of God. And so here, the exact terminology isn't used where it says in Luke that his flesh and bone, it says, not flesh and blood. And one guy tried to go, no, it says flesh and bone. A Christian in the chat once in my comment section was like, it says flesh and bone in Luke. Nice one. Nice try, Derek. Trying to slip in there because it says flesh and blood in 1 Corinthians 15 does not inherit the kingdom of God, but flesh and bone is different. And I'm like, both of them say flesh. So like bone or blood, whatever, put that aside. It's saying flesh does not enter the kingdom. It does not inherit the kingdom of God. And Paul is big on that flesh thing. But here in Luke, he has flesh. John, he has flesh. Or they're trying to put flesh on him, it seems. So I just don't, I'm not harmonizing anymore. Used to do that as a Christian, just not doing it. So I would say that, yes, there is no explicit difference in what is happening. The only thing is Paul says, last of all, he appeared to me. And I wonder if last of all is Paul's kind of way of sealing the canon off, so to speak, of visions, of saying like, I was the last one who got a vision. So if you go around saying you saw the risen Lord, nope. I'm the last apostle. I'm the final one, because he's very apocalyptic. And so I imagine Paul's not imagining Jesus appearing endlessly to people who have divine messages, which might be why Galatians 1:8, like our last super chat says, like if anyone has an angel from heaven appear to them with a different gospel than the one we preach to you, let them be accursed. And he repeats it again, like if anybody does this, let them be accursed. I imagine people were doing that. You don't say this if people aren't doing it. You don't say, hey, in the law, let's say, do not sleep, have incest, or do not lay with a man, or whatever the law is against same-sex relationships. You don't do that unless people are doing it. So I imagine Paul's literally trying to say, these people who are bringing you a message to the Galatians, trying to tell them to cut their peckers, this is not from God. Let them be cursed. And that's what it seems to be going on there. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And I did want to just point out to the beginning of this chat, Rafael Meliton Rodriguez Migaliano, forgive me if I butchered your name, ask you anything on which topic are you an expert? I'm not an expert at all, Rafael. So don't take me to the bank. Go and check anything I say out and see where you land, right? We might disagree and at the end of the day, come to different conclusions. But I am not an expert. I don't claim to be one. I'm just a guy who's passionate about learning about this material, who loves learning history, mythology, getting into theology, discussions, things like that. And I've listened to a lot of academics, and I've also read a lot of their works and stuff. And so I'm just trying to put the pieces together. So there you have it. But I can say I've spoke to many of these leading experts in the field on these topics. So I'll give you my take on what I'm like filtering down and what I've learned from them along the way. Joel Pearson, the first time you press the like button, every religious apologist feels a moment of unease. Hit that like button. Ray, what's up in the chat? Good to see you here. Good to see you. Trip has been well. I'm still getting over the lag. We drove for 4 days, 3.5, across the country, over 3,000 miles with my trailer and everything. And I was about halfway there. I was like feeling like a 3-year-old. Are we almost there yet? Are we almost there yet? I mean, it was just very difficult drive. Then I got here. I stayed at my parents' house. The video that I launched yesterday, I was actually in front of my parents' house. We stayed there for a few days, and then we finally moved into our own house. And now we're actually unpacking. So I'm trying to chip away at that while I'm still here, staying alive on MythVision. Thanks for the comment there. Star Capture, Derek, Karen was an ex-nun who left the convent and then wrote books about different religions, which have sold in millions because she is so good at making complex religious ideas clear to understand. I'm going to check her out. Karen Armstrong. Let me type her up here real quick. I've heard of this name, but I must admit my brain is probably shot. Let's see if I can get a hold of her. Some of these really big names are not as easy to get on. ARP13, have you interviewed Christine Hayes? Oh my gosh, you have no clue how bad I want to interview Dr. Hayes. I've emailed her. If I showed you my emails, it would be kind of embarrassing. It's almost like the guy who asks a girl out on a date, she ignores him every time. And then it's like, please, pretty please. I mean, I've begged her, and finally she responded to me. And she has a lot going on in her life right now with her family. I think when COVID hit, her husband was obviously hospitalized, but I can't remember all of the stuff she's got going on. But she has a lot of, while trying to run her academic life and keeping that going, she had a lot going on in her personal life. So I gave it a break. But then I got a hold of, bear with me 1 second, trying to find the book. Bear with me. Hold on. I put these up yesterday. Jews and the Roman rivals, pagan Rome's challenge to Israel. And she's a colleague of Dr. Christine Hayes. And Cattell is amazing. She got an award for this book. And I said, are you friends with Christine Hayes? Because I love Dr. Hayes' material. She said, yeah. I'll put in a good word for you. So pray to the MythVision gods, my friends, that Dr. Hayes gives me an opportunity. And I promise you, I will not fumble that interview. I will go and reread her material. I will do like I did with Stavrakopoulos, Francesca. I will do an interview where I'm like just giving it my all. Because Dr. Hayes' book on the origins of Yahweh and the development of the God of Israel, and it's just amazing hearing someone who's so clear and knows so much Jewish material. She doesn't just know the Hebrew Bible, the Septuagint, and knowing the ancient Near East. She also knows the Talmud, the Mishnah, the later traditions, and the evolution through Second Temple Judaism. It's mind-boggling the kind of material this woman has in her noggin, and I want to try and get it out. I would be willing, I'd put a GoFundMe together and say, Dr. Hayes, how much if I could fly to you in person, get my camcorder set up, sit in front of you for 6 hours and ask questions. I'll harass you for 1 day and then come back and edit all this material. We'll have bombshell interviews with Christine Hayes in 4K quality camera like I've done with all the other academics. That would make my dreams come true. I'm excited about her. I really love it. So thank you so much for that super chat. I'm going to keep riding here. I'm going to chip away at these super chats to try and catch up. So if you're asking something, keep asking. And then when we get through the super chats, I'll try to get your questions. Inquisitive Mind, did Muhammad want Jerusalem because of Luke 13:33? Let's pull that joker up. Luke 13:33, correct? Yes. In any case, I must press on today and tomorrow and the next day, for surely no prophet can die outside Jerusalem. Good question. For those who don't see it, I forgot to share the screen. Good question. I wonder if there's something to this, even if it's not a New Testament thing. Even I think that Muhammad was aware of New Testament scripture. I wouldn't be shocked. Great question, Ghost of MythVision. I imagine that also when you look at the Hebrew Bible, the prophets are typically killed in Jerusalem. And what does Luke do? In Luke 21, Matthew 24, Mark 13, definitely Matthew 24 talks about you killed the prophets, talking to Jerusalem. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, woe to Jerusalem. It's like there's a blame game on Jews in Jerusalem for killing the prophets. So you kind of wonder if this is trying to be a self-fulfilled prophecy by Muhammad on going to invade and try to get Jerusalem to fulfill scripture, of course. I never thought about that. Great, great question. We should do something on that. We should actually ask some of the academics. We'll talk ghost. We'll talk Casper the Friendly Ghost. Good question. Gray's 174. Are you Christian friends sad that you're going to hell? Do you ever have those conversations? I think my mom, most of all, gets concerned. But I think my mom recently, I'm not here to deconvert my family or anybody, really. I think it's just fun to engage. I think that people will make their own mind up and think what makes the most sense. But I did bring up the idea of King David being bisexual. And I said, Mom, there's some questionable passages. Sure, you can interpret them in the typical way we've always done it. Jonathan was David's best friend and like a brother, and they're just really close brothers, even closer than brothers, because they weren't born brothers. They were like best friends. But I was like, he kisses him on the lips, and, they are nude. They make a covenant together. He loves him more than any woman. And there's also the possibility that has been argued that Saul wasn't just angry at David because David somehow killed his tens of thousands or was jealous of him. He was upset at him because he took his heir to the throne, Jonathan, his son, who would have been the heir to the king, the throne, and was pretty much having a relationship with him. And so he's not going to birth offspring, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought about that, and I said, whether that's true or not, my mom started going, that makes a lot of sense. Oh my gosh, David might have been bisexual. And my mom's like not sure what to do with this information. But there's times where she's like, I'm worried, Derek, I'm more worried about me going to hell, not you. And I'm like, Mom, you have nothing to worry about. She's really afraid of hell. And it makes me feel really bad because I can't make her not. She's so been indoctrinated for so long, like I have, and most Christians who are in it. My mom's, really concerned about when she dies, where she's going to go. And she goes, Derek, I remember when you were a Christian, you told me you're going to go to heaven, Mom. Don't worry, you're going to go to heaven. And I just keep telling myself that. And I believe that. That's it. And I'm like, Mom, you're going to go to heaven. I comfort her that, I just tell her, that's fine. Because if that helps her mentally, sure. It doesn't hurt me in the end, and her in the end, in my view, because nobody's going to suffer. I just don't see it. Before you were born, what was that like? That's what I think will happen after. Usually Christian friends of mine don't talk like that because I usually don't talk to people who proselytize hell like that. They may believe there's something, but they don't really push hell as an idea all the time. Thanks again, Graves, for showing so much support today. Robert Herring, glad all is well. Go get your wife a coffee. Love to you and Nil. Thank you, Robert. We just got one at a Dutch Bros. They don't have Dutch Bros on the East Coast. I had Dutch Bros here with my wife, and it was really, really good. We had a really good breakfast, coffee, and I'm hoping that we are off to a good start on the West Coast. Those West Coasters say best coast. And yeah. Oh, honey, come and say hey real quick. Just so everybody knows I didn't murder my wife and hide her body. So say hey, honey, to everybody.
Hey, how are you guys?
Here, the mic. So anyway, I was just telling them we moved and we're here. And I wanted you to pop in and show them. Oh, they can't see you, baby. But I wanted you to see that we're here. We're trying to recover from that long trip and then moving our house. We still have a lot of work ahead of us. I'm also reminded of the courses and stuff that we have coming out.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing. So I asked her if she'd come down, and Mrs. MythVision said, absolutely, I'll come down and say hey. And anyways, any words that you wanted to say to them, like of anything that we've got coming up that
as far as what?
They can't hear you. Anything. Like what are some of the things? Whoa, the shorter channel, right?
Yeah, you can tell them about that.
You want to let them know what we're planning on doing?
You can tell them.
Listen, my wife isn't like a public speaker, and she's not big on the whole being live and being in front of people. So we're going to start a MythVision Clips. In fact, I was inspired by many channels, but Paulogia Live, and Paulogia has the bigger channel, but then there's Paulogia Live. And what we wanted to do is get some of the nuggets, and there are thousands of nuggets on MythVision. And my wife wants to do a smaller channel for bite-sized, bam, bam, bam type videos. So she's going to do that. And then we're also editing courses for what we've already done in David Litwas, but we have to finish up on the courses website landing page. And then there's the mysteries course that we did with him. I did a quest for the historical Jesus with Del Allison Jr. We did a Gospel of Mark course with James Tabor. Did I do any? I don't think I did any other courses yet, right?
You did 3, right?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did 3, and I plan on doing a course with Robin Faith Walsh. I've got a course I want to do with Jennifer Bird. I've got and John Dominic Crossan's probably going to fly here to come and do course in person. So the legend himself will be on MVP Clips. And MVP courses,
Yeah.
MVP courses. So MythVision podcast courses, for those who don't know MVP. And the courses will be coming out. So be on the lookout. Thank you.
Okay,
Love you. Thanks for coming down here. I'll be up there in a little while. I'll help out. You're sweaty? It's cold down here, honey. Yeah, this house is weird because it's cold downstairs and you go upstairs and you're hot. It's just weird. Robert, thank you for showing love. I hope that people will go subscribe to Neil, Gnostic Informant, for kicking butt for me and keeping this thing alive. Okay, here we go. Is Bel Yahweh and Amun Ra the same person? This is an interesting question. I know that if I'm not mistaken, Bel is a son of El in the Canaanite pantheon. As far as Yahweh, it wouldn't surprise me if they were brothers, but I don't know if we have explicit text that has Yahweh as a brother of Bel in any of that. But in the biblical text, there is competition between Yahweh and Bel. And if they're trying to do an ascendancy, as Kip Davis is talking about how gods would ascend the throne, and there's this battle between the prophets of Bel and the prophets of Yahweh, they could be brothers competing for the throne of El. Who knows? Amun Ra, I don't know. I don't know how to carry that over into Egyptian mythology, but I am going to have Matthew Munger on and this Tuesday. He might know more about that. He's kind of a philologist as well. So he might have something deeper to go into. Thank you, Darren, for that super chat. Ian, what's it like being one of the most handsome beefcakes in the skeptic movement? Thank you for the compliment. I don't know how to respond. Thank you very much for existing. David, thank you for that. Thank you for being in my chat. I can't tell you how much I appreciate having all of you here. Even those of you who are skeptical or critical or don't agree with my conclusions, thank you. If what I say gets under your skin, just know that I'm not a horrible individual. Try not to identify too much with a particular religion to the point where if I'm critical of your religion, you feel attacked. Like, I get it. Have the competition set in. Try to come back with something, but don't let it make you hate others, please. Apollos, good to see you in the chat. I really appreciate you just showing up, man. Bear Pig in the Hizzy, JR, good to see you. Ray, Nate S, Irreligious. I think there's definitely an overlap. I can't say they're identical, but there definitely is an overlap there on Islamicist and Christian fundamentalist. Sages and Pages, do you think the critical scholarship of the Bible is pushing more and more believers to fundamentalism? No, I don't actually. I think that, and this is my opinion, I don't think it is. I think it's causing people to have to mature, recognizing inerrancy doesn't work. Believe in the Bible. Go for it. Believe in that God. Believe in the tradition. But know that the silly fundamentalist stuff, it won't cut it. So I think that critical scholarship is pushing people to become, don't put the category as progressive, because there's like certain categories of progressive Christians that will be like, oh, we're really, really progressive. I don't want to identify as a progressive Christian, but there is progress being made where they're getting further away from anti-science, anti-factual information and getting into a more mature, livable version of their kind of religion without being so contrarian to the world around them. I think that's what critical scholarship's doing, is making people have to find a way to, even if it is cognitive dissonance in some sense, to mature in their way of thinking. Tell me, I hope you agree. I mean, I don't know if you do, but I think so. I think more people are going that route. Now, if they're fundamentalists and they're doubling down on fundamentalism, I don't think critical scholarship's doing any of that. It might help them double down on the fundamentalism. I just don't see people who are sitting on the fence go that route typically. But those are people I've encountered. Most of the Christian apologists, for example, that you might think are fundamentalist, they are trying to mature to keep up with the conversation with people who are academics. And I have conversations with Christian apologists all the time. And they're like, yeah, inerrancy doesn't work. And, you know, it might have worked for them a year ago, but not anymore. And they're having dialogues with people like me and they're realizing that. So I don't know. Yeah, I think Dale Allison and John Dominic Crossan is as conservative as this channel can go. I mean, as far as like getting taught by scholars, maybe you're right. I don't know. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Native, what is your honest opinion of inspiring philosophy? Michael Jones is a Christian apologist, and I think he's a really sharp guy. I think he's extremely well-read for a Christian apologist, and I think, well, me and him are friends, like off the record. Christianity aside, we have conversations and stuff. We talk. I've got a cell phone number. He's got mine. But at the end of the day, he would be critical of me. Derek, I think you're too critical, or I think this or that. He probably thinks of me, and maybe he thinks I'm not fair to the information, and that's a fair point if he thinks that. I think that he's doing what the philosophers did in Greek mythology, where they're finding a way to make their information not sound dumb and outdated, and it's a sophisticated way of trying to make Zeus, for example, raped women and children, boys, in their mythology. The Greek poets said, no, it doesn't mean that, it means this. Or they find ways to kind of make it match modern day material in some respects. I don't want to straw man him because I'm sure that he'll point out some things are dated. But I don't know if he accurately thinks the Bible is teaching flat earth cosmology with a solid dome. I don't know. I don't know if he, where he stands on a lot of material, because I haven't read all or watched all of his videos. But it's the way it seems to me that it's being presented as if like there isn't stupid stuff that's being said that we know is wrong today. And I say stupid because back in those days, we would have probably believed it. But we have an upcoming show, me, Dr. Kip, Dr. Joshua Bowen, and Dr. Aaron Adair. We're going to be talking about the cosmology in the Bible and how even when the Greeks and others in the world knew the earth wasn't flat, let's say, or they knew better, accurate information, the Bible stuck to its guns of ancient Near Eastern cosmology. They could have chose the path of like being up to date on some of the science because it was known in the world, but they stuck to their conservative roots, if you will, and stuck to the flat stuff, stuck to the solid dome. This is my opinion. I think that when you believe your worldview is true and Jesus rose from the dead and the text of these traditions are there, you want to defend them in some way and make them match the sophistication of modern day. And I think that's what's going on. I also think his name says a lot, inspiring philosophy. So we're taking philosophy, which has evolved over time, projecting it onto God, finding a way to make this, what I would say, corporeal deity, like Francesca Stavrakopoulou says, this book. And we're doing what the later Christians and other people do, where we make God invisible, outside space and time, sophisticated. God actually catches up or is ahead of science. And we keep God in the picture when God isn't really that way in these texts. So the texts try to keep up with us today. And I think philosophy is what a lot of Christian apologists are more. They're more philosophers than they are textual theologians and accurate scholars on what is being presented factually in the text, in the days and the times they were written. What was the context of the ancient Near East, and what did they mean when they wrote them? Not like a piece of art where, well, I think this means that, and you give your own interpretation. These are my thoughts. But the guy, he's read more works than I have. In many ways, I'm sure there's probably some stuff I've read that he hasn't, but Michael Jones is a sharp guy, and very, very smart people believe in different things. But that's my take. Thanks for the super chat. I hope that answers your question, but we are friends. And at the end of the day, I would love to have more conversations with him to pick each other's brains and why we take the positions we do. JR, thank you so much for that big super chat. As a genetic Judean, I can explain a lot of misconceptions and point out some facts that are in plain sight. As a genetic Judean, I can explain a lot of misconceptions and point out some facts that are in plain sight. Thank you for the super chat. I'm not sure how the genetics, you're being a genetic Judean, so I don't know how that's going to play in terms of your cognitive faculties and helping you understand misconceptions or facts and stuff like that. But maybe you're just trying to tell people like my ancestry is from Judea. But yeah, I don't know what those misconceptions and some of those facts are, but email me if you're interested in having me check out what you have to say. And I'd be more than happy to. Other than that, if I do a live show and we have like a group thing, bring them on and we can like challenge ideas. But thank you again for the super chat and appreciate that. TLX, thank you. Appreciate the support. Keep scrolling down here. Yeah, so yeah, you say I have a DNA test from National Geographic to back me up. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play a role in getting information factual. I'm sure there are genetic Judeans who don't know the facts. And so I don't know how that plays a role in getting facts or accurate information correctly. It is interesting that when I first met, for example, Rabbi Tovia Singer, he asked me, he's like, why are you interested in the Bible? Are you a Jew? Do you have Jewish blood? I'm like, I don't think so. So I guess maybe there's this Jewish idea that if you have like Judean blood or you're somehow a Jew genetically, that you'll have an interest in getting this information or wanting to know the facts. I don't know. Someone who might know more about this might know like how that works out in Jewish thinking, but I don't think I have any Jewish blood. Maybe I do somewhere along the line. But anyways, Paula Gia, thank you for the super chat. Some apologists have more books in their background than you do, so you're obviously wrong. Paul, I got to pretend like I know what I'm doing here. Actually, this is a green screen. This is not real. These aren't real books. You know what I mean? Paula G is in the chat, everybody. Show Paula G some love. Go harass him on his live channel. Go harass him on his big channel. Tell him how wrong he is for saying that I'm probably wrong. Because you're wrong for thinking that I'm probably wrong, that they're right. How about that? No, I think, I already thought about this because I have my bookshelf behind me. I already figured somehow along the way, someone's going to be critical. You don't have to have your books behind you to try and show that you're smart. We know you're a dummy. But I have not read all these books. There's a lot of books that were actually gifted to me by John J. Collins. The week he retired, I was up there at Yale Divinity, the college, and I interviewed him in his office. I think I have like 6 or 7 or 8 interviews of his still left on Patreon that have not made it onto YouTube. And when we got done and we were leaving, I was like, hey, you got a lot of great books. He goes, yeah, actually, I got to get rid of these. Do you want any of them? And I was like, yeah. A lot of them are not printed anymore. So I went down to the office, picked up 3 or 4 boxes, loaded it. I had 250 pounds worth of books. I asked him if we could drive to the local UPS place. I paid, I don't know how much money, and had them mailed to my house. So there are some really good Old Testament, Hebrew Bible, Dead Sea Scroll, scholarship books on this shelf. And I feel honored that one day when he's not around, they were given to me. But thank you, Paul, for joining in the chat. I really appreciate you and me for being idiots and pretending like we know what we're talking about. We do a great job. And so I just want to commend you for joining me in this endeavor of tricking people, and pretending like we read books that we really don't. I just thank you. Everybody say hey to him in the chat. If he's still in the chat, he's doing a lot of stuff. He's a busy, busy, busy guy. Soothsayers, question here. Have you seen my memes? I haven't seen your memes. I have not. Yeah, David Kiss, Jonathan, hardly proof. You're right. It's a collective combination of different things. From they were in nude together. He kissed him on the lips, I think it says, or kissed him, which seems like, what? Why are you kissing him? Loves him more than any woman. What else? There's some more stuff. I asked this of Joel Baden, an academic Hebrew Bible scholar, and he said, the language seems that it could be absolutely saying something about this relationship between Jonathan and David. And there definitely could be a homoerotic situation here. So I thought, holy smokes, I just got a nod from Hebrew Bible scholar Joel Baden that there's probably something going on here. And it wouldn't surprise me when you have Lot impregnating his 2 daughters, or Abraham, is knocking up the concubine slave. And like, there's this, it's like Game of Thrones to me. The Bible actually would make a hell of a Game of Thrones episode series if they gave it to you raw and they didn't try to just come from a Christian perspective where King David is like painted as completely good. Like the ugly side of this stuff would make a heck of a show. Abraham taking his wife Sarah to Egypt and pretending it's his sister. And then here is the Pharaoh, he sleeps with his wife. And it would be a chaotic show if the real biblical tale was told the way that it is, not making it look all whitewashed and pretty and things like that. Zagros, good to see you in the chat. Hey, Derek, would love to see an episode on mythical creatures and plants from Abrahamic religions. Interesting. Mythical creatures. We could definitely do that. And plants. I'm interested in knowing what the plants aspect of this would be. If you're trying to get it like psychedelics and stuff, or like the manna from heaven, maybe that's what you're talking about. There's some people think those were mushrooms. Not 100% sure where to go on the plants thing, but the creatures, Leviathan, and the different mythical creatures that I think that a lot of people want to say, well, that's a crocodile or a rhino, or a unicorn is a rhino because they have a single horn on their head or something. I don't think that that's the case. I think there are mythical creatures found in there, just like there's a fire-breathing dragon called Leviathan. And if you wanted to say that's an alligator or something, where's the fire coming from? There's a lot of problems. Melody Joyce's Mrs. MythVision. I'm finally catching up to where you guys are at. Aaron, thank you for the super chat. Maybe you should make your mom aware of Hades, Tartarus, Gehenna, Sheol, and all that stuff. Might be an eye-opener. I try to have these conversations with mom, but mom really gets uncomfortable during these, and I am not interested in making anyone uncomfortable during those kind of conversations. So I let her open up the conversation. And then when she does, I can only give her bite size because she can't talk about it long. She really, really, I believe that if my mom ever did deconvert, she would need like a PTSD, like a post-religious trauma type of thing in order to work through that kind of stuff. I'm not kidding. She cries when she goes into church because she says she doesn't feel worthy. And she tells me how unworthy she is all the time. And I'm like, Mom, no. So this is the stuff like when people who are comfortable in their religious view, that's cool. If it works for you, awesome. You don't think of yourself as not worthy or lower than and things like that. Hey, all good to you. But when someone like my mother and I lived with this unworthiness, we're wretches, we don't deserve any of this, and yada yada yada. Like that's something that I wish my mom didn't live with. But I also know not to pressure her because it scares her. The whole thing scares her. She even got scared when I told her there's the potential, don't know how factual it is, for David and Jonathan to been having a homoerotic relationship. That doesn't mean he was gay and he was only homosexual or something. No. Like David ends up with a girl. He takes another man's wife. He murders that man. Like this is chaos. This is Game of Thrones. But that's why we called it the bisexual king. The guy may have had this relationship with Jonathan. And my mom thought, that's a possible interpretation that makes sense. She's the last person who would want that to be true. Trust me, she's more conservative and extremely Christian in this respect. But I feel like I want to edge that way of getting her to not be so fundamentalist. And I don't know. It's a hard topic because it's sensitive to me too, because I love my mom. I always will. And I wish the best for her. She wishes the best for me. So Aaron, I think as time goes by, and now that I live near my mom, I think we can have conversations over time that'll bring us closer to understanding each other, even if we don't agree with each other at the end of the day. And thank you for that support. Till X, thank you for that big super chat. I've read where an apologist stated that there is so much more of the New Testament manuscripts than any other ancient manuscripts ever written, which adds credence to the Bible. How would you respond to this? I mean, it's like, let's imagine someone wrote something and it wasn't 100% factually true, but because it was believed by people and they had a tradition, a textual tradition, which was just copied and copied and copied and copied. If the original stuff is not factually, historically, reliably true, and you copied it a million times, all it says is this is extremely influential and there's a textual tradition behind it. In fact, we're talking about the New Testament here with your super chat. How I would respond is the Muslims actually make this argument even clearer, right? Since Uthman's codices, Uthman is the third caliph in Islam, a couple decades after Muhammad's death, they had like the Quran figured out on what they want, and that has been the case practically ever since then till today. There are far more discrepancies in New Testament textual traditions, and when a copy is made and a copy, and of course most of those errors that are made are grammatical or so minor they make no theological or contextual differences. Sometimes they do. The Quran has a far better tradition in terms of keeping the Quran the same when it's copied. So therefore, because it's copied and it's passed down and stuff, it's truer. Well, maybe the Christian will say, we have far more manuscripts than there are manuscripts of the Quran throughout history. I don't know how that bolsters your case. Both are holding to critical, or not critical, but to a textual tradition, claiming to be the one. And it just tells me that it had a lot of impact and their followers wanted to keep the tradition going. So as it spread through the world, you had to make copies. I just don't get it. It's like Muslims will say, look at how many people memorize the Quran. This is a miracle. That you memorize the Quran is a miracle. It's somehow, in a sense, it sounds like people who are saying how important that this manuscript is copied and whatnot is somehow miraculous. No, it's extremely influential. I think it's still the case that the Bible is like the number one purchased book in the world. In the world. Doesn't make it true. Just, makes it very influential. So as far as that goes, if you copy an error 1,000 times and you found another text that, let's say, has an error, but it's only copied 20, it just tells you how influential or the kind of tradition they have behind trying to preserve and maybe spread that information to other areas in the world. Doesn't base any truth in it. That's my opinion. Any other ancient manuscripts ever written? I don't know if I would suspect that that's the case, though. And all the ancient other manuscripts that we're talking about in the Greek world and stuff, they were preserved by Christian hands. So imagine the church is probably not going to copy these other manuscripts or Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey or Greek poets and philosophers, and especially critics that don't believe in God or whatever, or don't believe in their God. I can't imagine them wanting to copy that more than their own tradition. It seems kind of common sense to me. But Till, I hope that answers your question. I wanted to bring Islam into it because I think it helps kind of get a better perspective. Grays 174, do you think Satan raised Jesus is theologically tenable? I've only heard it as a throwaway comment, never fleshed out. Satan raised Jesus? I mean, I don't see where that would be in the text. Unless one wanted to argue that God, in like the Marcion sense in some way, that God is the evil one. So the demiurge raised Jesus. So it's almost like Jesus is trying to escape the demiurge, but then he raises him 3 days later back into this flesh, if you take the physical resurrection as an angle. And then therefore he's trapped again in this demiurge. I don't know. I'm just throwing out an idea there because the flesh is not good. It's corruptible. It's bad. And I just don't see the text. I don't see how that would work out in the text unless one wanted to argue God, in this sense, is the demiurge, and he's raising Jesus to keep him forced into this creation in some sense. I don't know. Is that an argument that can be made? It's something to think about, but Marcion's view, right? But Marcion doesn't think that it was the demiurge that raised Jesus. He probably thinks it's the different God, the God above God, that the good God who's all love raised Jesus from the dead. And don't know how that would flesh out with Satan. Maybe you can email me some text that makes sense of that. Zagros, what do you think of Superman's real name, Kal-El, and his father's name, Jor-El? You think there are religious undertones? The L thing makes a lot of sense. I have not ever given this any thought, Zagros. It's interesting to do because the analogy that comes to mind is the recent show, Stranger Things. And I really thought this author, whoever the person is that produced Stranger Things, is acquainted with El as God, because 11, L, I took this as L because her nickname was L throughout the show by the other kids. 11, L, she has powers that no one else has. She's able to move objects and whatnot. And she even, in a sense, comes back from the dead, it seems, in a weird way. When those who aren't familiar with Stranger Things, I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a moment where she's killing this thing called the Demogorgon, and like she kind of dissolves, and you almost think she dies, and you're like, oh, that's it, but she's not really dead. It reminds me of that Zalmoxis myth that is in the ancient Herodotus, 5th century BC mythology, where they believed Zalmoxis went and died, but he goes into this cave for 3 years, then comes out, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's alive. He's truly not dead. She disappears for a while. Anyway, I just spoiled it for some of you who haven't watched it. If you haven't watched Stranger Things, you should. But the name L and 11, because she's coded with the number 11, I think there's an undertone of secretly trying to talk about God here. I could be wrong. I looked this up. Some other people were talking about this online. I just don't know Superman's father and his real name and stuff. So I'm not acquainted with that comic book mythology there, but I thought about Stranger Things. Zagros, if you watch Stranger Things, tell me if I'm onto something. And if you thought this was an interesting connection, how many of you in the chat have thought about this as well, who's watched Stranger Things? And if you think I'm a child for watching it, I have 3 boys. My youngest kid was like, Dad, watch this. And I was like, oh, here's a kid's show. I got sucked into it. I thought it was amazing. I love that show. I can't wait for the next one. Seriously, thank you for that. Appreciate that. And yes, that is, hold on. Rochester, Johnny's right. Well, that's obviously a question better suited for Dr. Price. I think you're 100% right about that. He is the Superman guy. So if you want to ask, I would ask him that question when it comes to Superman. DJ Wilkins, thank you for the super chat. Greetings, Derek. Have you looked into the use of composite citation illusion in the Gospels? Would love to see you dig into it. Composite citation illusion in the Gospels. Is there like a specific book that I can read on this? Composite citation illusion. Gospels. Googling this here. Let's pop this up here for a second. Composite citations in antiquity. Okay, so what we got here? Christian origins.div. Composite citations in antiquity. Over 20% of Paul's quotations are composite. More than 17% of the citations in the Synoptic Gospels are composite. Despite these relatively high percentages, there has been surprisingly little research focused on composite citations in the New Testament. Until now, the fundamental premise of our 2 volumes, Composite Citations in Antiquity, is that the New Testament authors were embedded within their Greco-Roman literary environment. Therefore, we set out to study examples of composite citations across a range of texts. The first volume, Greco-Roman, Jewish, and early Christian uses, was released in 2016, and the second New Testament uses is expected for release in early 2018, but look for it in or at the 2017 SBL in Boston. In Volume 1, we offered a working definition of composite citations as follows. A text may be considered a composite citation when literary borrowing occurs in a manner that includes 2 or more passages from the same or different authors fused together and conveyed as though they are only one. I'd be interested in checking that out. I like stuff like this. Composite citations in antiquity. I'm going to keep this up and try to interview the academics who are involved in the authorship of this book, DJ. I'd like to learn more about it to see what they say, because I imagine this could work not only with Jewish scriptures, right? Their scriptures, the Hebrew Bible, but also the Greco-Roman world and the literary compositions in the time these Gospels were written. If we factor that in, you kind of wonder, like, where is the influence? Is it only coming from Mother Judaism? I think there's more going on. I think in this Hellenistic world, there's impact both from the Jewish world and from the Greco-Roman world around. So especially, I always say this, especially even though scholars don't really like to harp on this, especially since the world that they're living in, Greco-Roman one, and the movement of Christianity is moving from Judea, Jerusalem to Rome. It's becoming, as John Dominic Crossan talks about in Luke Acts, it's going from its headquarters in Galilee to Jerusalem, Jerusalem to Rome, and it's Gentiles are starting to influx into this religion. I mean, you're going to give a message that's extremely compatible to that world, I imagine. Thank you for that, DJ. And if you would email me more on this, I'd be happy to investigate it further. But I imagine that some of this work would come in handy to learn about that. Thank you. Humanist Reformation. Nothing to be skeptical about with Christianity. Jesus lied. It's just biblical fact that we can point to in the written word of God, word for word. Keep up the good fight, Derek, against fundamentalists. Thank you, Humanist. And just so people know, I can already read your mind. You know that after all the super chats. This is pertaining to the apocalyptic expectation of the end, the soon end, and the change that was supposed to happen in the time of this apocalyptic figure, Jesus and Paul. Some academics want to try and take away that apocalypticism from Jesus and say that's just Paul being put on to Jesus. I'm not so sure. That's possible, but it doesn't seem the most likely to me. It's more Occam's razor, less ad hoc to just say, here is a tradition, a second temple, Jewish apocalyptic tradition. Paul's following in the footsteps. The Qumran sect is following his footsteps. The Jerusalem sect is probably following the same steps. Jesus was probably following the same steps because John the Baptist was following in these same steps. So here you have John the Baptist sandwiched with Paul, Jesus in between the two. I don't see why that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Yes, failed apocalyptic prophet. Though, who knows, right? The evidence is just all over the place. And we don't have like solid stuff. So Soothsayer says, Derek, when can we get an Orthodox flying man scholar to come onto your channel? Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know the flying man is real. Anyone who tells you otherwise, let them be accursed. They're being taught by false angels. Apollo's Christian Apologetics. Have you looked into eyewitness data science? I just started looking at papers. I was going to do my own documentary, but I think you can do better. No, I haven't. I've been reading a recent book by Bart Ehrman, though, on this that I think might be good, but I don't know if it gets into eyewitnesses so much. Let me pull this up so everybody knows what I'm reading right now in case you want to read it with me. Audible. I got it on Audible because I can listen and drive. After Jesus, before Christianity. Let me see if that's it. No, it's Jesus before the Gospels. Is that the one? Yes. Jesus before the Gospels. Let me pull that up here. I think it gets into like eyewitnesses and like how good word of mouth is. Jesus before the Gospels. Share the screen. Okay. Yeah. Says the best-selling author, misquoting Jesus, one of the most renowned and controversial Bible scholars in the world today, examines oral tradition and its role in shaping the stories about Jesus we encounter in the New Testament and ultimately in our understanding of Christianity. Throughout much of human history, our most important stories were passed down orally, including the stories about Jesus before they became written down in the Gospels. In this fascinating and deeply researched work, leading Bible scholar Bart Ehrman investigates the role oral history has played in the New Testament, how the telling of these stories not only spread Jesus' message, but helped shape it. Anyway, I think he also said he stopped reading any biblical stuff for a few years when he went to write this so that he could focus on, how memory works, memory studies and things like that. But you're talking about eyewitnesses. It ties into this. So if an eyewitness says they saw something and then they pass these stories on, how these legends build. But Apollos, email me. You got my email. I'm interested in what you have to say about this and what angle you're trying to take. Other than that, I can't read your mind. You're wearing a tinfoil hat and it blocks my alien powers from being able to read your mind on what is really being said here. Or my understanding is just lacking because I don't quite know the angle you're taking. Thank you for the super chat. And for being a member. Lee Spainer, thank you for the super sticker, Lee. Did you have a comment or a question? I don't see one. Dr. Kill is in the chat. Kip Davis, dude, is that your new house? Yes, I am in my new house, Dr. Kill. And there's plenty of room to bury the bodies once you visit, because that's what you do. You're Dr. Kill. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Rochester, good to see you in the chat here. Theophilus, vaguely agnostic. Caterpillar in the hizzy. Jamie's in that chat. Thank you for the super chat, Jamie. Hey, Derek, any chance of you moderating a debate and inviting Christian scholars to debate the end-time quotes Jesus made, saying his generation were in the last times eschatology? 100%. I want to do that. There's actually a Christian named Bram that was debating a buddy of mine who actually is in the same boat as me, thinks like I do on this being a failed apocalyptic end. But I want to have those debates. I really want to have more debates on here on the channel. I don't do debates myself. I have conversations usually. I'm not into that contentious trying to be right so much. I have to tone my ego down enough, but I am more of a studier and a kind of person who's interested in conveying these ideas, but I host these debates and try to remain neutral as much as I can as the host. You know my biases. I say them out loud, but I do want to remain neutral as a host of these debates. Yes, to your question, we will have those on the channel. And in fact, I also want to have full preterists, the camp I came from, who believe Jesus' second coming did happen, the end didn't fail, debate critical scholars who say, yes, it did fail. If I can make that happen, I will. I hope to. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Yo, my head hurts after reading 7 Day Week's Idiot's mind-numbing, stupid position paper ahead if his debate with Pat Lowinger. Look, Pat, I'm going to have him on the channel here. We got to talk about this. Everybody who's seen the guy who talks about the 7 days, I don't even know what his name is. He's come on. He's been polite to me, but like he'd come on and like try to challenge Kip or try to challenge Josh or try to challenge people on how, because we live in a 7-day cycle with 7-day weeks and God created the world in 7 days, we're all technically responsible and need to repent and come to the God of Israel. And this somehow proves that this God rules the world because everyone on planet Earth somehow lives in a 7-day cycle. Like that's getting hammered out with Pat Lowinger. He's going to debate the guy. If he hasn't already, they're doing like papers back and forth. I don't know if they're going to do actual video, but I want to have Pat on to like pick apart what was being said. And Pat's always informative. He just got done teaching courses too. So maybe Pat can explain some of that. I don't know if that's something that you can order or whatnot. Pat, if you're in the chat, let me know more. David, thank you for the super chat. I am a dum-dum and don't have any explanation for it. Have a nice day, everyone. David, look, I'm a dum-dum too. The more you learn, the more you know how much of a dum-dum you are when it comes to all the world. And that's just showing that the Dunning-Kruger effect is not happening. So stay humble, my friend. It's good to be a dum-dum. I take that as not a derogatory thing. If you stay, if you know that you aren't where you could be, you'll keep learning. Remain a student. Try to keep learning. If you have all the answers, and that's the scary part about conspiracy theories, is like they have answers, and no matter what, they got the answers at the end of the day. And but just remain open-minded. Learn. Don't be a dogmatist. Humble, and you will be fine. You will be perfectly fine. David, thanks for the support. The Ghost of MythVision's back. What's your favorite interview, Hoyland or Shoemaker? I don't know. You put me on the spot. I'll say Robert Hoyland. I like Robert Hoyland. I like both guys. Hoyland carries himself in a different way. Personally, Hoyland. There it is. I'm not saying anymore because I'll get in trouble. I want to interview Shoemaker again too. So I'm giving my honest opinion. But Hoyland is just a really good guy. Robert G. Hoyland, for those who don't know, is a leading critical Islamic historian and scholar, and he's super humble. I love that guy. Doc Pluromana, good to see you here. Have you thought of bringing back Eisenman, or is he just too much of a grump these days? Oh, man, put me on the spot. It's very difficult. I've interviewed him 3 times, and it's very difficult. I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that. It's really hard to interview Eisenman at this point. I didn't have any plans on bringing him back. Not saying I wouldn't. I just would need to put my patient pants on and just be ready to try to get through it. Because even like at this point, he's written a lot in history in his books. But at this point, if I ask him something about the Dead Sea Scrolls, he doesn't want to get into the weeds. He doesn't want to answer complicated questions. He wants to very generalize and just and quickly jab at what you say and then tell you about the history of his ancestors that were buried in Jerusalem or what's going on right now in the Gaza Strip and like this and that. And I'm not interested in going there. I'm interested in like, what did the Dead Sea Scrolls say? How do we know about the dating of these things? And so it's almost like, why bring him on if he's really not interested in diving into the things he published all his works on and going deep on them? That's why. That's my honest opinion. So other than that, I will leave you to give your own thoughts. Soothsayer 13, I've posted dozens and dozens of original memes on your Discord. Might give you a laugh. I need to check it out, Soothsayer. I haven't been on Discord. That's something I need to incorporate now that I'm in my new location and I'm going to zero in. I'm telling you, mark my words, I'm going to hit the ground running. We're going to do so much here. And we're going to get deep into some of these topics. My wife's going to start the Mrs. MythVision. Sorry. Sounds rude the way I present that. My apologies, honey. She's upstairs. Look, I'm looking up to God right now. She's upstairs, you know. She's going to start the clips. So we're going to be really active. And for those who are on Patreon, I'm going to catch up on your messages. I have a lot of messages to catch up on Patreon. I will do it. I will do it. Scrolling down. See, Pat is in the chat. Pat, what's up, man? Thank you for being here. Dr. Kill and manuscript preservation and manuscript production are not the same thing. I think that's right. So how much production is there pertaining to it? Because there's different text. It's kind of funny how preserved the Gospels and the canon that we have are. But what about all the other productions that aren't these Gospels? I don't know. Kip, maybe you have something to say on that pertaining to the Dead Sea Scrolls and how they go. So I don't know. You can set the record straight. I'm scrolling down. Yes, it is. Gary, good to see you in the chat. Topic discussed. Go subscribe to everybody here. If you haven't subscribed to Kip Davis, please do. If you haven't subscribed to Topic Discussed, please do. I'm a member of his. Please do, I said. This is the new house. I am in my office. It is not done by any means. It is skeleton right now. There's a bit of an echo because it's an open room. But yes, I am in the new house. We're working on trying to get it unloaded, and I am hitting the ground running. Smade in the shade. Mouth kissing is normal in the Middle East. Bathing together is normal. Gulf War vet here. Did you have a more than brother in arms in the service? Such bonds can be intense without being homosexual. That's true. This is why there are interpretations where people are saying that that's the case. I could read to you how Dr. Joel Baden, Hebrew Bible scholar who is acquainted with the ancient Near East as well, and how he answered me. Bear with me for a second. I'm trying to search for my message to Dr. Baden. Here it is. Okay. Dr. Baden, I hope your holidays have been well, my friend. Is there a decent case to be made that King David was bisexual or had some kind of relationship with Jonathan beyond just a brotherly love? And this is the way he answered me. If the question is, does the Bible depict David as potentially having a sexual or romantic relationship with Jonathan? There is no clear answer. It's in the eye of the beholder. But I do think that the text alludes to the possibility using pretty intentionally ambiguous language. So I guess a decent case, sure. As long as we don't talk about the actual person and only the literary depiction. And that is from Professor Joel Baden, Hebrew scholar. So you're right, but I also want to point out that others who are saying this could be the case, they could be right too. I wouldn't die on the hill, but it wouldn't blow my mind at all. When you have wild stuff happening in the ancient world, according to these texts, Lot with his two daughters, I bring up that crazy analogy. There's a lot of other stuff that happens. Incest, brothers with sisters, the whole nine. It wouldn't shock me. It did at first. I was like, I never thought about that, but wouldn't shock me. But you are right. A lot of people who are in combat in the ancient Near East, I imagine it wouldn't be any different. Today, when you're over in Kuwait, when I was there, they go up and they kiss you on the cheeks. I don't know about the lips, but that's probably a thing in some places of the world. Wouldn't shock me. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate the support. Schmade in the shade. Fire Sabers, good to see you in the chat here. What individual religious text or manuscript do you find the most fascinating? What individual religious text or manuscript do you find the most fascinating? Right now, if we're going to just stick with New Testament, I would say Mark. The Gospel of Mark really is impressive. Jesus is really, don't tell anybody. I think that's interesting. And if you want to talk about manuscripts, right, that tacked on end of Mark. So Mark itself is like a mysterious gospel, but it also has this like multiple alternative endings that were not there originally that are tacked on. What's going on with the Gospel of Mark and the various manuscripts related to it? But Mark itself is mind-boggling because, you know, I'm a skeptic who honestly wrestles with this issue. Bart Ehrman and other academics say that Mark is not conveying Jesus as God. It's definitely in John. It appears that he is high Christology. But in Mark, Christians will say, nah, he's Yahweh. He calms the storm like Yahweh can calm the storm. There are ways, but they're trying to show allusions to Jesus being Yahweh. And I wonder if there's something to that. I don't know, but I wonder, is there a case to be made that Jesus is Yahweh in Mark? I'm not closed off to the idea. I know my friend Dragons in Genesis with Margaret Barker's work would say that Jesus is Yahweh in the New Testament. Is that the case? Is the identity of Jesus being hidden that he is Yahweh in some sense? Or is it just hush, hush, he's a son of God? Not that he is God, but he's a son of God. I don't know what the answer completely is on that, but I do wrestle with it. And so I think Mark's an interesting one for that simple fact that he doesn't want anyone to know who he is. Is there a kernel of history behind this? Maybe. Is there a kernel of history where there's a case to be made that Jesus himself wasn't claiming to be the Son of God and that he wasn't claiming some of these things about him, which is why he always says, don't tell anybody. But his followers later attribute it to him by reading the scriptures and finding a way to say, oh, he was the one. You guys missed it. We believed him. And he was the Son of God. He was the Son of Man who is to come, etc. I don't know. It's something to speculate on. Thank you for that super chat. I really appreciate it. Pat Lowinger with the super chat. When are Kip and Josh doing their Academics Go Wild 2023 calendar? Have you heard you are going to be Mr. July? I'll be sending those nude photos in soon. Me and Yahweh are competing on who has bigger junk. But yeah, Pat, it's a thing. It's a thing. Seriously, thank you for the super chat. We got to get together here sometime. I need to contact you after this. Let's plan on doing that follow-up episode and pick apart some of the things the 7-day guy is saying. I'm sure it's going to be interesting. Schmade in the Shade is back again and is a member. Don't forget to join the membership. I do plan on doing some lives where only members will be able to chat, so consider helping us out. Jeffrey H. Tiggy or Tigay, Jewish interpretations of the Canaanite genocide. If he's doing interviews, would be a good one. Okay, let me look up this academic. Please be patient with me. Jeffrey H. Tigay. All right. I think this is modern. Oh, wow. So I better catch him before he's gone if he's still around. Oh, man. Yes. Was born in Detroit in 1941, educated at Columbia University, gaining his BA in 1963, continued toward rabbinic ordination at the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. He earned his PhD in comparative biblical and ancient Near Eastern studies from Yale University. Tigay taught in the Jewish Studies program at the University of Pennsylvania from 1971 until his retirement in 2010. He's currently the A.M. Ellis Professor of Hebrew and Semitic Languages and Literatures Emeritus. Ooh, good catch. I will email Jeffrey and see what he has to say and talk. I'll even mention Jewish interpretations of the Canaanite genocide. That sounds like a fun episode. Thank you for that, Schmade. Schmade in the that's an interesting name too. A lot of members in the chat chatting. Good to see. Oh, Sobek, what is up, Sobek? Good to see you in the chat. You're probably gone by now, but hey. Isle Guz, thank you for introducing me to all these great scholars. Really learned a ton from your channel. Thank you. Guess what? I learned a ton from this channel too. If it weren't for the channel, I wouldn't have been able to have these academics and learn. And thank you for the compliment. I think a lot of people have learned a lot over this past couple of years. And I think we're doing a service, a good service to people. So thank you. I really appreciate that support. Lee G, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Listen, you don't have to worry about hell anymore, my friend. Pascal's wager will prove that. I give you facts, right? So like you don't want to risk all of that, and you are in safe arms with us, my friend. Thank you for becoming a member. Dead serious. Now you have the gifts of the Spirit, the whole nine. You can speak in tongues. Your words are really true. You can interpret tongues. You can prophesy now. And you know what? There's an interesting caveat that most people don't know about becoming a YouTube member of MythVision. You can blaspheme the Holy Spirit, and you're totally cool because you and the Holy Spirit are like good to go. The Holy Spirit can't touch you on this one. So feel free to do that all you would like, and you are protected by the blood of MythVision. And you know it's true, so don't argue with me. You know it's true. Thank you again. Inquisitive mind, who's more harsher, Christian or Muslim apologist? Depends on the kind of Christian apologist. If we're talking about like Darth Dawkins and people like that, they're pretty ridiculous, presuppositionalist. Muslim apologists are also, a lot of them are extremely ridiculous, but it depends on which one and who they are. Because I'm realizing not all of the apologists are the same. They come in different stripes and different flavors and different colors and different things. And it's just like, I don't know the question of that. If we're talking about like Daniel Hikikachu, who like literally thinks it's okay and they're like thumbs up to going and sleeping with 9-year-olds, or which is in the Muslim apologist world, or thinks that like death to apostates is totally should be good to go, or women shouldn't work. They should be staying at home and absolutely stuck in the house and stuff. There are certain cults of Christianity that are like that too, by the way. So I think I would just go with a Muslim apologist at this point, because some of the stuff is really, really bad that I've seen, but I wouldn't put it past either one, if depending on the kind of apologist. Thank you, Ghost. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Scrolling down here. Let me see. Lots of chat. Just don't want to leave you guys hanging here. Doc Pluralmanot, try and get Justin Blount, Brown University, on alongside Litwa, great Gnostic scholar. Justin Blount, Brown University. Justin Blount, Brown University. I'm slow with typing. Hold on. Let me make sure I got that name right. Blount. I spelled it wrong. There. That's why. I'm coming here. Bear with me. Justin Blount, Associate Professor, Business Law. I don't know if that's him. Justin Blount. Let me just type in Gnostic. That sometimes helps me. Gnostic Genesis, Historical Blindness. I don't know if this is the website. Probably should share my screen. Help me out, Doc, here. I'm going to share my screen. Is this a website to him or something? I just typed in Gnostic here, but I'm looking for Brown University and Blount. Let me do Dr. Justin Blount. That might help too. Cut out some people. Brown University. I got the LinkedIn here. Justin Blount, Assessment Coordinator. I don't know if this is, view the CV. It looks like a business. Teaching. I don't see it here. Let me close out the CV here. I'm not even at Brown University. Will you email me? Email me how to get a hold of this guy, and I'll email him. I'd be happy to get them on and interview them. You know what I do. And of course, Litwa, I can't wait to have him back on. I feel a little bit disappointed because this has been the toughest time right now of what I've got going on with the move. But I'm about to launch his course on the mysteries, and because I had help from Neil on editing them, Neil will get early heads up on promoting that. And then once I do that, I'll have Litwa on, and of course we'll promote those courses. But I want to really do more with Dr. Litwa since I'm where I was going. My schedule was ridiculously busy with moving and remodeling my mom's house that we moved from. Now we're in our new rental. Please email me, Doc, or send me a message on Patreon so that I can actually get a hold of them and interview them. I'd like to make a collab happen. Schmade in the Shade, thank you for the super chat. Rabbi Harvey Oscar Falk, author of Jesus the Pharisee, 1985, would be another good interview. His work touches on a lot of Cattell Berthelot's points about Noachides and converts. Let me look up this scholar. Rabbi Harvey Oscar Falk. All right. Jesus the Pharisee. I found it. Got the book here. They got a few used ones that are pretty affordable here. Definitely. Okay, I will look into this and email and see what the book's about and how we can go into this, because it goes into the school of Shammai and their followers interested in hearing what this scholar is saying. Appreciate that. I don't know if they're an academic or not, but I definitely found it on Amazon. Schmade in the Shade. Appreciate that for real, for real, for real. Ghost is back again. I'm at home scratching my gonads and having a bud. I don't know how a ghost can do that. See, when Jesus ate fish, flesh and bone cannot do that. And it's showing that he wasn't a ghost. How can a ghost do that? I'm curious to know that. And thank you for telling us all of this information so the whole world knows now. Jason Stewart, hi, Derek. You should try to get Jeffrey Butts on. Who is this? Jeffrey Butts. Jeffrey Butts. Okay, looks like it was easy as soon as I pulled it up. What's the book about? The Brother of Jesus and the Lost Teachings of Christianity. He uses evidence from the canonical Gospels, apocryphal texts, and the writings of the Church Fathers to reveal the teachings of Jesus as transmitted to his chosen successor, James. Demonstrates how the core message in the teaching of Jesus is an expansion, not a repudiation of the Jewish religion. Shows how James can serve as a bridge between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. James has been... I'll look into this person and see what they have to say. I'm really curious to see what they have to say before I interview them, and how their stuff stands up to scrutiny, or if we're able to do anything. Because the problem with some of this literature is you can make up anything along the way if you really try hard enough to piece the puzzle together. Anyway, Doc says he's an Eisenman acolyte. Yeah, this is what I do, though. I look up the scholars and I will try to process their information, read some of their work, then interview them. I do that a lot. Music Fan says, thank you, Derek, for the great work you do. Would you be interested in visiting Rome? Absolutely. I'd be happy to host you and show you the city. Yes, I would love to travel to Rome at some point in the future. Don't know when I'll be able to do that, but I wouldn't mind doing it. And thank you for that little comment here. So back to just letting people know, my buddy Jonathan Sheffield, he's creating these intros. And the ones I've had, the cartoons made up, he's like, D, have people who want to help support, they could donate $250, and we'll do 4 cartoon intros. One, if you want to donate the $250, you can do it through PayPal, you can do it through Patriot, where you can be, I guess, I don't know if you could donate through Patreon, but Cashapp, Venmo, however it is, you can email me too, so that we get the details down on what you want made. And we'll give you a shout out, of course, when we go to do the actual debate on September the 16th between Robin Faith Walsh and Jonathan Sheffield. But we can start the cartoon now. So if you're interested in getting a cartoon intro for 30 seconds made, help us out. Donate. It helps out. He said all the funds will go to MythVision, and I could do 4 of those, but the 5th one we're going to preserve for that day. Anyone who's super chatting and stuff, I think $5 and up, gets their name put into the hat, and then Mrs. MythVision will pick their name out of the hat. Whoever at the end of that debate gets their name picked after Q&A wins the intro. So it'll be a fun, exciting debate with a raffle, pulling your name to get a cartoon intro. And he'll make 5 intros, he said. He said, Derek, tell them right now to start if they're interested. I'm ready to start on their cartoon intros if they want to go ahead and donate. Figure I'd let you all know. So email me if you're interested in that. And he's trying to do it because he knows that this trip that I just did and moving my family cost an arm and a leg for real. So I appreciate Jonathan for offering that. And you can have your own custom intro. I know it'd be really good for people who have platforms who want good intros. The other thing is you can donate it. Like, so let's say you have a content creator that you really like and that you want to give them a special gift. This is a way of like giving them an intro made. So you can have a custom intro made and you can just say, hey, I'm donating this on behalf of other content creators. Here's a 30-second bad to the bone intro cartoon made for you. And we can gift it to them. So those are options. Theophilus, I've already emailed Emmanuel Tove and he will not respond. I've tried multiple times, my friend. Derek, reach out to Emmanuel Tove, the lead scholar of the Dead Sea Scrolls team. He's over 80 years old, but he's the one you really want in terms of academic scholarship. He won't email back. I have tried to get Tove. I've emailed him multiple times, but I know who is in charge of the Dead Sea Scrolls now, and that's John J. Collins. So Collins is somebody I can get a hold of, and he is, I would look forward to actually having more discussions with him. So I appreciate that comment, though. Yeah, I would love that too. He's a bit dry. I've seen a lot of his interview or presentations. He's a bit dry. Not much. You have to really pay attention, but very sharp and knows the Hebrew. Answers to Tobias Singer, why devil invented his Christianity and after invented his Islam against his Christianity. Is devil super stupid? Don't know how to answer that question because I don't believe any of that's true. But anywho, I think humans have developed these things. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions from anybody. Any questions from anybody in the chat before I go? Feel free to ask me anything. And I'm going to get back to unpacking my house. I am tired. I drove 4 days. We drove 42 hours with a trailer on the back of our vehicle that's not built to do that, 16-foot enclosed trailer. And every time a semi truck passed or a car passed, the vehicle swerved. And I mean, I feel like I've got jet lag from hell, literally. So I'm all yours. I will wait for you to ask questions. In fact, let's do this like an altar call. Let's play the music in the background while we do this. Here's the altar call. Ask your questions. If you want true salvation, ask away. Let's see. We want to do this one. Ladies and gentlemen, come down to the altar of MythVision today. Come and receive your salvation. Yes, we're not Isis and Osiris and Dionysus. We're better than that. Our myths are truer than their myths. We give you facts and information will help you make sense of the world. Don't you feel the tugging of your heart? Come down. You know it's true. Come down. Anywho, let's see what kind of questions we have. Marco says, thanks, Derek. Wanted to let you know that I really appreciate your work. Marco, thank you. Really do appreciate that. Joel, most Christians outside the U.S. are fine with abortion. I imagine probably. Doc Pleuromonot, pro tip. If it is still in a box after 1 month, equal dump. Pro tip. If it is still in a box after 1 month, dump. Oh, you're talking about with moving. Yeah, I wish. My wife hangs on to things. And, you know, as soon as I'm like, get rid of it is when I need it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe she knows better than I do. Lee G, the new member of MythVision Salvation. Have a well-deserved rest, buddy. I'm trying, but I got to unpack my kids. I got to unpack everybody. Hey, Derek, I'm confessing to you that I may be moving up to Washington State in a year or two. Uh-oh. Look, I got to lower the music here. I think that's what they're talking about. It's too loud. This might be better. Let's go with Eternal. How about that? This is the name of this song, Eternal. There we go. There we go. Exit Music, if you end up in Washington, message me. Be happy to meet you in person. I am all open to those kind of meet and greets and stuff. So, Zelini, how often do you do those open conversations? It was interesting, though a bit late for us from Europe. I imagine I'll try to do it more often. Don't know how often, but I'll try to do it. And I want to do some specifically for members and for those who are Patron members, of course, to have our own little private stuff at some point. I think, Steve, you're talking about the music. Oh, you felt it. Look, Alexander felt the spirit. Ha baba shima baba la masha. Hasha lamara hashamaba. I get it. I totally understand. And let me be the interpreter so you know we're not nuts here. What he's saying is that it is true what Derek is saying today. And if you really, really, really want true salvation, you'll follow the critical scholarship route, and you'll find out using scientific methods to try and come up with a pretty accurate worldview and not just believe in things that feel good or stories that we tell ourselves so that we're not afraid of death, all of that. That's pretty much what he's saying in this tongues. So I hope I accurately interpreted your tongues there, my friend. Vaguely Agnostic says, not a stalker are in the mountains or on the coast. Or not a staker. Not a staker are in the mountains or on the coast. I'm in the southeast of Washington State. Pasco, Kennewick, Richland, Tri-Cities. So that is where I'm located, and 30 minutes from the border of Oregon. I also plan on making a trip at some point to Russell Gamirkin, because he lives in Oregon, like 4.5 hours away from here, 5 hours away from here, to do in-person interviews with Russell. We've always done them remotely, and his internet wasn't great. So I want to get in person with Russell. We gotta make sure his throat doesn't give up, because his voice really starts to give up in person or when we do these interviews. John Fox says, question, do you think the historical Jesus would have been married? Ooh, I don't know the answer to that question. If he's as apocalyptic as Paul, maybe not. I mean, if he's as apocalyptic as Paul, maybe not. I don't know. Some people try to argue because he's called rabbi. Rabbis typically had wives. That could be the case. It wouldn't shock me if he was, but I'm not sure that he was or wasn't. If there was a historical Jesus, it wouldn't shock me one way or the other. It just depends on how we look at it. That's the problem with this information, is like Jesus himself isn't the same Jesus throughout the Gospels. Superman, Jesus, and Luke. Into your hands I commend your spirit. In Mark, why, my God, why have you forsaken me? Totally different Jesuses. So depends on how much you take the reliability of these particular portraits of Jesus in these Gospels. And I just don't know the answer to the question. Thank you for that question, though. It's an interesting question some people have tried to jab at. Washington's a good place to move to. We are all full up here in Idaho. Yeah, Washington's a great family place. I'm glad to be here with my family, but we'll be able to focus on the kids. I think it'll be a great, great place to raise them. Thoughts on the missing years of Jesus? Did he go to India to smoke weed and study Buddhism? I don't think so. I just don't think the importance of his earlier years in the Gospels needed to be presented. I get why we fill in the gaps, though. Look at the rabbis later on when they have their oral traditions of Moses and oral Torah. They fill in a lot of this stuff. They're constantly, creating extra stuff to the stories that aren't there. So I think it's interesting, but not convinced. There's just so many things that are kind of anachronistic to add to the traditions. Why they don't mention his youth, like other than the brief mention of him as like a 12, 13-year-old in teaching rabbis in the synagogue, is another curious, like interesting question. But I don't think the gospel authors know about the life of Jesus growing up and stuff. I don't think it was important to them too. I mean, if you really want to hone in on Jesus in the Gospels, and let's say you're taking the historical approach that you think there was a guy, really what they know about him is that he was like an itinerant preacher around the time of John the Baptist. And I would say the earlier life stuff is late. It's later that they tack onto him. But it's really like the last week of Jesus' life that is being focused. From the cleansing of the temple and being down in Jerusalem and preaching this message and triggering and pissing off the Jewish elite to his death. That's really the focus. I mean, the whole Gospel of John, even though it's later, is only about that week or a couple days of that week. It's really, really zeroed in. So I imagine that like maybe people told oral traditions. Oh, yeah. You know, Jesus, this guy who ended up getting killed by the Jews and the Romans, when he was younger, he was so wise that even at 12 years of age, he was schooling the rabbis in the synagogues. That sounds like legend. And that sounds like it was inserted there. Nobody knows about that. I imagine if there's any history, if you're giving me the benefit of the doubt and you're giving me a bone here, mythicist, if you're giving me a bone here, if there is any history, it's that last week of the impact that he may have made on his movement by going and being killed for what he believed in. That's it. I don't think they know about his birth so much. Maybe traditions, oral traditions of people saying where he was from, maybe Nazareth, and later they want to fit it into Bethlehem. Other than that, give me a break. Okay. Did I miss? Yes. Caleb says, I'm a Washingtonian. Hello, Dago. Sorry, with a few exceptions, when I hear historic literalist Christians start blabbering nonsense words and pretending to be speaking in tongues, I think it's cringe. That's why I do it, because I think it's funny. We have the real speaking in tongues here. And I do that. I flip and reverse a lot of the religious stuff that goes on within Christianity because I was a Christian most of my life, but I do it on purpose to kind of make it fun. I hope it doesn't make you so cringe you can't listen to what I do here. But yeah, I do it all in fun and jest. Cranium Maximus. Oh, I have to go to Walla Walla for my VA visits. Good Mexican food in that area. Wow. Yeah, I'm not far from Walla Walla. Pasco, Richland. That's where we're at. My father also is a veteran who has to go to Walla Walla, I think, for VA visits as well. I'm not sure that they have that here. So thank you. Graham Pong, what is your point of view on narcissistic abuse and abusers? I think it's point of view. I mean, I don't know what you mean by point of view. I think it's bad. I think it's horrific. And I think that a lot of cults are ran by narcissists who abuse people. So I don't really get it in the super chat, Graham. If you have more, I don't know the context here. I think it's horrible. Yes, a Washington homie. I'm here now, man. I was born here, actually. I was born in Pasco, Washington. And, I moved military brat my whole life. So help me out there, Graham, if there's any more to that context. Last temptation of Christ. Different Jesus on the cross because maybe the crucifixion never happened. Could be. I just don't see any reason why. I mean, here we are with that whole like mythicist versus historicist approach. It's not ridiculous that a guy got killed on a cross to me. That just doesn't seem ridiculous. It's the other stuff that would seem ridiculous. The legendary, miraculous stuff that seems more of a ridiculous thing. So, yeah. Derek, how was the road trip scenery? I thought it was beautiful. Very, very beautiful along the way. I got super, super stressed out and started to kind of get claustrophobic after a while. It was just such a long drive. because I'm not a truck driver either. I'm not used to driving that far and that long without taking breaks and stuff. So Jay Wright says, good day. There's a lot of theories as to where the Ark of the Covenant is located. What's your view, and should we even investigate? Nothing wrong with investigating. I'm just not sure we'd get anywhere with it. The Ethiopian church supposedly has it in their church that no one's allowed to go in and touch and see and all that kind of stuff. I mean, from what I understand, in ancient Egypt, there were many arks of these boxes that were made to house the gods or idols or whatever. So even if we found something that looked like that, how would we know it is that? Maybe we found a really primitive box that had like ancient Aramaic or Hebrew on it. We knew it was like 5th, 6th, 7th century BCE or something. Maybe that would help. But I would imagine that when Babylon came and destroyed and took it, or when one of these nations took it and they melted it for gold, if it's made of gold, that's what I would imagine would happen. There are many different arcs, just like there are many different shrouds. The Shroud of Turin. Celestial Knight, do you agree that most self-proclaimed internet atheists actually actively disbelieve in God rather than just lacking belief? Also, what would convince you that God exists? Yeah, and I see no wrong with actively disbelieving in God. Just like people actively go to believe in God. And I imagine that one might argue, well, if I give you evidence because you're actively disbelieving in God, you're just going to follow not wanting there to be a God and therefore be an atheist no matter what. And I think that would be the argument typically. What would convince me? A Thomas situation, doubting Thomas, right? Think about this. The 12 supposedly believe Jesus rose from the dead because he appears to them. Thomas is there. He sees all of these miracles that Jesus performs. Then he dies, and supposedly he's telling them all the whole time, I'm going to die, but I'm not going to stay dead. And then he dies, and Thomas doesn't believe. He had all of these miracles happen in front of him, supposedly, and yet he still won't believe that Jesus rose from the dead. He has to show up and touch his hands, feel his side, and then he believes. I don't even have all of that. So I imagine Thomas kind of material and more to convince me that this is true. And I've told this to Christians. The Christian apologists think the testimony of this literature is enough to believe, when I have shown thousands of times on MythVision how the testimony of this literature isn't in agreement. There are discrepancies, there are problems, contradictory ideas. It does not even agree with itself. And we're supposed to think that this is sufficient evidence because from this literature, there's tradition, and church has continued teaching that Jesus rose from the dead. That is sufficient evidence to believe. And I've gone on record also saying, the church in Corinth, the church in Galatia, the church of Philippi, they didn't see Jesus rise from the dead, but they believed. And I imagine it's because they're doing what similar modern day charismatic churches do. You go in, you feel the music, you see people speaking in tongues. They claim to be prophetic. They're supposedly, telling you of dreams and visions and things like that. I think that is the similar thing happening in Paul's early church. And they saw wonders happening in their own midst. So if you go to a modern Pentecostal church, you'll probably see things like that. And if you're swayed by the message of the conveying of Jesus dying for your sin and you're going to have eternal life, because who doesn't want to live forever? I'm that kind of atheist that would love to live forever. Some atheists say they want it to be done. And I wouldn't mind when we die, we go somewhere and it's way better than this. Who wouldn't? I guess some wouldn't. But anyway, it would take a lot more than text and a church and, people believing, and a large amount of people believing in one thing. Shoot, Muslims believe what they believe. Christians believe what they believe. It takes a lot more than that to convince me. So I guess I would say it like this. If there is a God, that God would know what it would take to convince me. And I know it'd be a lot more than the Bible. It'd be a lot more than these churches. It would be on par with unbelievable miracles. Like, that's the kind of level. But does Jesus want to show signs? When they ask him for a sign in Mark, oh, you adulterous generation, you will not be given a sign. But then Matthew tags him, well, you will not be given a sign other than the sign of Jonah. So Matthew's already adding words to Jesus. which what happened in Jonah's case, he spit up from the well, and just as Jonah was in the belly of the well for 3 days, or the big fish for 3 days and 3 nights, so shall the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth, and then resurrect, right? Yeah, we're dealing with the text. Thanks for that question. I am only defending myself and those innocents who are harmed, who are objects to that. I think you're talking to me. I don't know. Melody Joy. Did I miss somebody? Lauren, welcome to the chat. Not sure what time it is in Australia, but you made it. I feel like I'm blurry. Oops, I hit my mic. Let me do this. This might put me in a better focus. Okay. MythVision, I'm a fan. Wasn't meant to say you were cringe for playing with it. Oh, no, nobody. Even if you were upset about it. Grew up in Moses Lake. Love your series on the Mormon church history. Plan on doing more with that, Anthony. Thank you for the compliment. Rafuscat, to whose name? MythVision podcast. How often do you consider astrotheology as an explanation to all religion based on electric? I don't know much about the electric universe thesis. You go far enough back, I suspect astrotheology plays a significant role in many of the ancient religions, at least astrology in some sense in this. How is Derek's brother-in-law going? Which one? And what's it related to, Dago? Human sickness is so severe that few can bear to look at it, but those who will become well. Vernon Howard. MythVision, I'm in Everett. Stay out. We're full of idiots. Thank you for the heads up. Stephen Anthony, 1056. Thank you for the super chat. You just said I don't know if you had something else you were trying to say. The Laughing Philosopher. What academically respectable Jesus theory makes least sense to you? Academically respectable Jesus theory makes least sense to you. That's a tough one. Academically respectable Jesus theory makes the least sense. It's kind of a complicated question to ask. Is Jesus a rebel? Was Jesus a peaceful protesting kind of Jew who got under the skin of the people there because he had a lot of the followers following his message? Would mythicism fit in this category in some sense? But we're talking about academically respectable Jesus theories. And so it's tough to kind of categorize that because there are academics who may not be in, mainstream colleges that don't laugh at mythicism, but they would say that they don't find it the most probable explanation of the material. It's hard for me to say because it depends on what we're trying to ask in this question, Laughing Philosopher. I've heard some academics, for example, think Jesus was crucified for blasphemy, like he actually was claiming to be God. And I think that's a later John thing. I would imagine he probably wasn't crucified for that if you were to take one of these positions on Jesus. But really the question is, what Jesus theory are we discussing and in what way? Are we dealing with what kind of historical Jesus is there? Is he a rebel who's leading a violent revolt against Rome? It's not out of the question, but it's not the most accepted academically. Are we talking about, do you think Jesus even exists question? Are we talking about how he died question? I'm curious to know what in that vein are we trying to dive at? And then I'll give you my personal thoughts. Scrolling down. I'm a hard atheist. Soothsayer. Oh, and the mana can't afford that. I'm an anti-theist, James Apperson says. Thoughts on various churches claiming to have remains and relics of the 12 apostles. Why not carbon date them and try to extract DNA? I would love for that to happen. I just don't think they're going to let you. This is kind of like what's going on with the shroud. You're not allowed to really investigate the shroud like that. They'll take pictures from a distance but we're not really touching it. Other than the carbon dating that already took place, which there's conspiracy theorists out there that think it's all baloney, or it was taken from certain parts of it. So they don't want to discredit the science, but they want to say, well, they only cut certain parts of the shroud. Even if we do, what are they going to say about that? The piece of the cross. Oh, that was part of this. Or there's always some way out. If you have cognitive dissonance, you'll wiggle your way out of it all. Mr. Creenan, I think there is a way to do Christianity like a radical personalist, Hare Krishna. It's just that isn't historic literalism. You could. Melody Joy, admittedly, I'm an atheist too. Ark of the Covenant would be a great show topic. Yes, it would. And I will at some point. I guarantee you we will get an academic to dive into that. I must keep reminding myself of this. Have you considered getting PhD Newman on here? PhD Newman on here. Let me look up this person. Alchemically Stoned, The Psychedelic Secret of Freemasonry. Angels in Vermilion, The Philosopher's Stone from D to DMT. So far it sounds a bit out there. I'm not going to lie. Is this like an academic? I'm trying to look here. Or is this just somebody out there who's an author who's going out? Okay, I see they got Alchemically Stoned. Seems to be like the main book they did. Oh, popped that one out on accident. Did I just... Oh, here it is. P.D. Newman's bold and daring theory provides a radical interpretation of Masonic symbolism in the tradition of Wasson, Hoffman, and Ruck. Okay, so these are some serious scholars that are being listed. The Road to Eleusis, Unveiling the Secret of the Mysteries, and Heinrich's Strange Fruit, Alchemy, Religion, and Magical Foods. Newman suggests that practical psychoactive pharmacology rather than philosophy lies concealed in the root of some of our allegories and mysteries, admitting to be more than a theoretician. Newman draws from his own personal experiences and a wide range of sources in presenting his theory in a logical manner which merits consideration. That's an interesting book to possibly dive into. Appreciate you introducing it to me. I'll look further into it. Jesus is not a historical fact. Celestial Knight says, thanks for answering my question. I'm actually a Muslim, not a Christian, but I would follow up and ask you how you know you wouldn't brush off the Thomas incident as hallucination. I don't know. That's why I said to answer that question, if I'm by myself and I experience something, let's be honest, right? If you experience anything you experience is so profound to the eye of the beholder, the person experiencing it, typically you want to trust your faculties. Typically, right? We want to trust our senses to give us accurate portrayals of reality that we live in. And so if I had some type of experience and I was by myself, I would wonder, is this real? That's why I said God would know. But what it would take something unbelievable and miraculous. Not a book, not a text, not the New Testament, not the Quran, not the Hadith, not the oral traditions, not the, various claims to these texts that somehow it's miraculous or it's divine or without error and things like this, or not man-made. That doesn't work because it looks man-made to me. All of this stuff looks man-made to me. So it would take more than that to convince me personally. Graham Pong says, chat said you saluted narc abusers. Glad you don't. Chat said you saluted narc abusers. Narcissistic abusers, I think what you're saying. I was about to say narcotic abusers. Like, hold on. I was addicted to narcs for a while, but I don't know why that is. I don't know. I don't know what the conversation, where that comes up from. So, Graham, thanks for the super chat. Cross and so-called contradiction on Paul's conversion was just not important. There will be more, my friend. We will be doing more. In fact, Dr. Jennifer Bird contacted me today while I was unpacking this house. And later this week, she's going to be putting together a few slides, a few PowerPoint slides. And she is going to go into Well, let me just have the horse's mouth speak for herself.
Hey, thanks for getting back to me, and I'm happy for you that you're in a lovely home and probably more space from the sounds of it, and unpacking is just getting it done, right?
Yeah,
Getting it done.
a lot.
I am chuckling at the assertion that Lukács' author was a companion of Paul's. If that's the case, then he is just throwing Paul under the bus and is shifting the narrative significantly. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that. We could do that. And in wanting to prepare for that, I would like to put a few slides together. I won't make it a lot, but just a handful of slides I think visuals are helpful. And I think it's Google Slides you said work well for you. If you could remind me on that, that'd be helpful. But I wouldn't be able to do this until maybe the end of this coming week if you're looking at dates or after that. But I certainly couldn't do it right away at the beginning of the week. Okay. Thrilled. I'm really excited about this possibility. Thank you.
Yeah, I've interviewed her on Acts in the past, but stay tuned. And by the way, I agree that it wasn't when I super chat these scholars, sometimes they'll be on Nils' channel or they'll be on Jacob Berman's History Valley, or they'll be on, any of these channels. My fingers are crossed that they give an exhaustive answer that really hits home on what I'm asking. And oftentimes they're not prepared for the kind of question that's coming. They haven't really dug in and are ready to do that at that moment. But I really wished they would. Yeah, I mean, I get his response wasn't exhaustive and it really wasn't sufficient for, especially if someone who believes that Paul's a companion or someone who isn't already convinced that Acts contradicts Paul. You're not going to convince people with that. But I know Crossan, if we did a specific episode and prepared for it, then we could really dive into how does Luke Acts really differ from Paul's letters, and in what way does this show he's not really a companion. I also want to get into Richard Purvo's commentary, the Hermeneia commentary, and his books, picking that apart and showing why Luke Acts is later. Maybe I'll have Steve Mason back on again as well, so we could dive into Luke Acts and Paul and how they are different. And again, maybe presenting further evidence on how Luke Acts knows Josephus. I think this is important because a lot of Christian apologists I talk to, and I talk to a lot on the phone, we have these deep conversations and they're just like, no, I don't think he does, because he gets some of the information wrong about Josephus. And it's like, could this author not be using Josephus at liberty and disagreeing with Josephus where he sees fit? Maybe. So we'll stay tuned and see what happens there. Soothsayer says Pine Creek method is best at deconverting, in my opinion, anyways. Different from everyone. Truth be told, some will never, some never will. Yeah, I guess it depends on who, right? Depends on who it is. I get a lot of emails, and I mean a lot, from ex-Christians that said that our platform and what we do helped them because it's not as confrontational. They really get to digest the material and really walk through the facts of their text, really go through the literature of the Bible that they believe in, and it helps them deconvert. There are others who listen to the logic and the using kind of what is it? Aristotelian. What is it? Can't even think of the term. He's doing SE on them. He's trying to show them how it doesn't make sense, and they get deconverted that way. Some never deconvert, and some thank me. I have Christians who say, "Thank you. You've helped me not think so silly in my beliefs. You've helped me mature in my beliefs. I appreciate your platform because I really think that you're educating and doing a good thing for the world. Thank you." So some people find ways to make it, if that makes sense. Oh, okay, Dega. He's doing good. Right now he's serving a little stint in like a rehab type jail thing, but he's doing good right now. You know how it is. We struggle, we relapse, we get clean, and we try to keep pushing forward and getting better. And I'm hoping he stays that way. Final question request. Could you please invite Bible Scholar to talk about the Kenite hypothesis? It's a respected theory that argues Yahweh was originally a Midian Arab god. Kenite. if you'd email me, Celestial Knight, any academics that take that position or can present the case, please do. I'd be happy to. Yeah, thank you. Lauren says, I agree about Thomas. He's such an interesting one. Gospel Thomas, the Acts of Thomas are my favorites. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate you involving yourself in the chat. Let me get to this super chat here because I don't like leaving people hanging. Max the Confessor, where do you think the Leviticus laws against touching women who are menstruating and their prescription for pigeon sacrifice atonement came from? That's a great question. I do not know. This is a question for one of my Hebrew Bible scholars. Maybe they know the ancient Near East too, like Dr. Joshua Bowen. In fact, let me ask him. Maybe I can, you can email me or something and get Dr. Josh to respond. I'll ask Dr. Josh and Kip because I've got him in a private chat. Hey, gentlemen, to my previous question, I don't know if you'll have an answer to it. So whenever you get the opportunity, please let me know what you think about that above. But I'm live right now. I'm asking you the question. I have a question from Max the Confessor, and they sent me $10. So I just figure I'd try to get this question answered. I know you won't be able to answer it right now, but where do you think they say the Leviticus laws against touching women who are menstruating and their prescription for pigeon sacrifice atonement came from? Do you know of any ancient Near Eastern laws that go before the Hebrew Bible that kind of give these kind of, don't touch women or unclean during the situation? Is there any precedent in the ancient Near East for this kind of stuff? Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying your day. I'm going to get back to unpacking my house as soon as the live is done, but maybe we could get Max the Confessor to email me, or Max, join the Patreon. You can message me there and then I can respond back. It's easier that way. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks a lot for taking my questions. All right. See, I talk with my hands. They don't see me doing that, but you do. My wife gets on to me all the time. I'll be on the phone and I'm like, no, because what happens is, no, but look. Thanks, Max. I don't know the answer to that question. I know that someone might. Dr. Bird is awesome. That is true. Doc, stay tuned. You already know how it is. Chequez, Max the Confessor. I don't know what Derek thinks, but it sounds satanic to me. You've just raised my opinion of Derek, Graham says. Don't forget to hit the like. Yes, Mason. More Mason is always good. That's a fact. True, but Josephus saying he heard the rumors is only evidence that the religion existed. I'm trying to get through here. Derek are probably correct about the no confrontational effect, even though it's difficult to not be confrontational. That's true. I just try to softly ease my way into that because I know how sensitive it is. But depends on who you are. You got the Hitchens of the world, and then you have others. Man, Bear Pig, best deconversion method. Read the Bible cover to cover while watching Christine Hayes' lecture series. Boom. She was a beast. MythVision podcast. I also hope you help deconvert people from historic literalism, but not necessarily abandoning what they valued in their religion and instead make it better. I can dig it. I definitely will take into consideration Del Martin on doing future podcasts. I need to look at his work again because I need to know what I want him on for. Man, Bear Pig, man, write me, email me, please. Because the one concern I have is there's this kind of approach that Del takes where it's like, it doesn't matter what the original author said or meant. It matters how we interpret them. It's like I was on the phone with him for 30 minutes one night. I said, I want to know what Paul meant to his original audience. And he said, stop trying to figure out what Paul meant. Do you care why Beethoven wrote his first symphony? And I don't really care much about the symphonies of Beethoven, but his point was, it doesn't matter why he wrote it. It matters how people understand it today. And I'm like, I get that that's a part of the conversation, but that's not my interest. I'm looking at historical critical methods on trying to understand what fits the context and what it originally meant, just like what was God understood as by ancient Near Eastern Israelites and Jews from Judea. Like, I get how God is viewed now, but what was the understanding of God in its original context? So help me out. I'm really curious on what I would want to interview Del Martin on, but I'm afraid I don't want to get lost into modern understandings and interpretations. I want the historical critical stuff, and I know he could do it, but maybe you can help me put together a show with Dale and go from there. Because I have a cell phone number. We talked, but I just never put a show together because I got I had a bad taste in my mouth after that conversation because it was like, he doesn't want you to be too curious about the original context because we can't be certain about what the original was about and stuff. And I'm looking forward to trying to pick apart these texts and what they probably really meant. Inquisitive mind, is Hobbit the truth as it's preserved word for word? I think he's talking about the Hobbit, the fictional show. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Grandpong, interesting. If you know more Kenite hypothesis scholars than I do, email me. Anybody with that, email me. Anyway, email me also if you're interested in that intro. Again, Jonathan told me, please plug that so everybody who's watching this knows you can have an intro cartoon made, custom, however you like your cartoon, or if you wanted to go out on a limb and kind of sponsor another YouTube channel for somebody, you love their channel and you want them to have a cool cartoon, you can play a role in that. We're selling 4 cartoon intros, which he spends weeks building and creating and putting colors in. All of my cool intros he made. And then we're going to have one raffle lottery type of situation for those who super chat on the day the debate goes down, September the 16th. Stay tuned. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go help my wonderful queen, the Mrs. MythVision. So please go down in the description if you want to help us out. Email me if you want that intro made, and then you can donate, and I'll set you up with Jonathan, and we'll get the details about your cartoon that we can make, or whoever you're wanting to buy the cartoon for, we can make it happen, and just keep spreading the love. I really appreciate that. Might as well do a little shameless plugging of the Patreon. Of course, I informed everybody there. I've got a lot of interviews that are there. You got to scroll down and hit next, of course, on interviews that I haven't launched that are public, that aren't public, like this one right here isn't public. Not sure where the next ones are. There's a bunch of them on this thing. If you keep scrolling, you'll find this one's not public. This is Matthean posteriority. Anyway, you hit load more and go on and on. There's John J. Collins, Elaine Pagels, Joshua Bowen, Joel Baden, James Tabor, the list goes on and on and on. There's all sorts of stuff. And I'm editing stuff too. So consider helping us out. Join it. Yeah. Heck yeah. Thank you, Jack Wes. Thank you so much. Melody Joy. Thank you, James. Jameson. Derek is a Noahide denier. You whack son. Sounds like we got a conspiracy theorist in the chat here. Somebody who thinks that, I guess, Jews rule the world and are ready to kill us all. How much have you commented on the Salman Rushdie issue with Islam? I bet you Jews were behind that too, huh? Yeah, let's blame the Jews for everything. Yay! Let's keep being anti-Jewish and go all the way. Just keep on, because they really rule the world, you know? Look, it's hilarious just the level at which some people go in terms of going after Jews in every single respect. And dude, do I think Jews' religion is wrong? Hell yeah. Do I think that their beliefs are backwards and outdated? Absolutely. But when you got to go so hard that Jews are behind everything and are involved, you got to realize something. You got to realize that if you were born in the 1930s, you might have sided with Hitler. Okay. You really got to think about this for a second, because that's what it gives up. That's how it looks to everybody around when all you do is focus on Jews and you're critical of them. It's just red flags to me, because I'm critical of Jews and their religion, yet I'm critical of Christians and their religion. I'm friends of Christians and I'm friends of Jews, and I'm friends with Muslims and I'm critical of Islam. Balance out, what you're doing in the world. Quit thinking, everybody is secretly a part of some Zionist Noahide conspiracy to rule the whole world. I find it ridiculous. It really is stomach-turning anti-Semitism, and it's clothed in a sophisticated way as if it's not. It absolutely is. And anybody who's like well balanced and looking into this stuff and isn't obsessed with the rabbinic literature, isn't obsessed with going down into the Talmud and the Mishnah and trying to find anything these ridiculous Jews that have an idea. Dude, you find it in the Hebrew Bible, you find it in Islam, you can find it in all of these outdated or ancient religions from back in the day. You can find that. And there are modern Jews, absolutely, that are bigoted and anti-Gentile and all of that. Sure, not all, but there are a lot of them. And if you think they rule the world, then you're stuck in that conspiracy that really it's their secret plan of no hide and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, thanks for more fun. Take care, Jake. Thank you. But this competitive, jealous, chosen people persecution is ridiculous. You speak sanity. Thank you. Appreciate it. My biggest problem with debates, arguments, is how each side are constantly trying to be right instead of learning from each other and getting closer to the truth, and they think they won. That's true. That's true. Grandpa, critical of assholes regardless of race and religion. A Jew stole my Pop-Tart. Oh, wait. Never mind. I was sitting on it. That's probably where your part. Yeah, exactly. Does Noahide mean what MythVision think it does? Soros is behind it, right? Everybody's behind it. But the Jews drink the blood of Christian babies. They really do. Yeah, man. I appreciate everybody in the chat. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I'm going to get back to unpacking with the wife. It's been a hectic couple weeks, really month and a half packing up. And we finally reunited with our kids. We haven't seen them for over 2 months. They've been on the West Coast. We were on the East Coast. But now we're here. And they don't know how to act around us. They're just so excited to be around their mom and dad. I love y'all. And let me play one of these outro cartoons. If you find it in your spirit or your soul and you want a custom cartoon made, just know that it was a Jewish Christian who created it. Duh, because Jews rule the world, right? Don't forget, we are MythVision.